You bought the ticket. It's time to take the ride. Often imitated, never duplicated. This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. What's happening? Everybody around the world. What's up, D? What's up, Jeff? Everybody. What's up, Chris? Rich Zoller. Yeah, okay. Kind of figure it's that kind of a party, right, Rich? Good. You know, we got a lot of photographers tuning in today, so that's cool. Yeah, I'm real excited about today's show. What's up, Steve? What's happening, Tim? Friggin' hot out there delivering mail. I hear there's a world out there. I wouldn't know. I never leave my apartment anymore. So there you go. Hey, Nico. What's up? Yeah, I said I'm doing my show. All right, good. The gang's all here. Frankie Too Far. What's up, bro? Like I said, got a few photographers checking in on this one today. Mark, up in Canada, so stoked. I'm so stoked. Yeah. Let's talk about real quick a couple of upcoming shows before we bring on the Hardcore Shutterbug. Coming up a week from today. Hey. It's a week from today. From Fang, the infamous Mr. Sammy Town McBride will be on the show. Then, a couple days after that, is the Biohazard Urban Discipline 30-year anniversary with Bobby Hemble, Danny Deluxe Schuler, and Billy Grazia Day. How about that? We're going to go deep on that one. Wednesday, August 25th, Joel Ghostin, author, musician. He was in Pigface, The Undead, Electric Frankenstein, etc. And then we got Vic Venom on the show. Nausea, Sacrilege, Reagan Youth. So we got a lot of, yeah, man. Yep, Bobby's coming on the show. You know that took a lot of work to get that to happen. That was not easy. Manchester, UK, checking in, looking forward to this one. Well, we're happy you're here, MB1A1. Manchester represent. I remember about Manchester. Black Sabbath's from Birmingham, right? I remember from Manchester. Charlatans, UK, right? That's Manchester. All right. What's up, Joe Frank? Yes, Sammy Town will be so good to talk to him. Yeah, he's a character for sure. That said, let's bring on the hardcore. Oh, the Buzzcocks. Is that right? The Buzzcocks are the Smiths, right? Durr. Happy Mondays, right? The Manchester Sound, right? If you're from Manchester, you probably hate these bands, right? Stone Roses, right. Like if I was from Manchester, I'd probably hate these friggin' bands. Got it. Oh, Joy Division, that's right. Oasis, Buzzcocks. Gee, I'm like, who's from? Yep. What's happening in Buenos Aires? Hugs to you too, brother. Thank you. Joy Division. Oof, that's some depressing shit right there, huh? What's happening with the Hardcore Shutterbug? Speaking of depressing shit, what's up?
Yeah, welcome. Welcome to the oven of Queens. Oh my God.
It's like 3 billion degrees out there.
Yeah, it's here. I'm just melting away. That's all right. Wow. I'd rather melt away on the clock than at home.
Right.
At least get paid for it. Jeez. This is exciting. I got to say.
Oh, GBH is from Birmingham too. Okay.
Oh, at least there's one band in there worth saving. Birmingham is Sabbath and Priest right there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, GBH, Sabbath, and Priest, right. And then there's Sheffield. Sheffield is Def Leppard and Joe Cocker and all that, right?
Yeah. Hey, listen, England has brought us so much musically, Where's Zeppelin from?
Fuck if I know. London? Hey, what part of Queens are you in?
Right now, I'm literally smack in the middle between Corona and Flushing.
And you can see the stadium.
Yeah, well, right? Look right there's the U.S. Open right behind me. Oof.
Is that the Arthur Ashe Memorial Stadium?
Well, there's the Billie Jean King, there's the Arthur Ashe, there's also the Louis Armstrong.
Arthur Smash.
So, yeah, the U.S. Open's, it's pretty exciting when that comes around here in a couple of weeks. Just like it's a gazillion-dollar industry, and you get to see some tennis going on here. It's pretty cool.
Lars comes to town for that from Metallica.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, absolutely.
He's a big tennis fan.
Him and his dad were both,
big tennis fans. Let's do photo of the day.
Yeah, I'm excited today. You know what? I'm glad to see all my photographer friends out here for this one.
Yeah.
And, this is pretty legendary. As hardcore heroes go, this guy is he's up there, Yeah,
I'm excited. I'm excited as well. It's got some stuff to talk about. Not just hardcore. We're to get into some other stuff as well.
Hip hop.
So.
I mean,
hip hop.
This is a man whose photos are as iconic as the bands that he shot.
Absolutely. So here we go, boys and girls. Photo of the day. Wrong answers only, please. Here we go. Boom. Hardcore Shutterbug photo of the day. This should be good. Wrong answers only, please. There we go. Let's see what we got. Yes, Bill, it is going to be a great show. Zeppelin's from London, apparently.
Thank you. Just straight up London. Okay.
Just London, bro. Oh, Jesus. Is it Billy Milano? Is it Stigma? Is it Kong? Is it Cousin Joe? Is it Chewbacca? Okay. Come on, we could do better. There's more coming in. I can feel it. Is it Ted Eatall? Wow. For those that don't know, Ted Eatall was an upstate promoter. Is it the new band Ape that is playing the A7 this weekend? Very good, Chucky Brown. Go. Is it Coco? Is that Coco?
Nothing gets past Chucky.
Is it Handsome Dick? Is it Rick to Life? Huh. Is it your Tinder inbox? Good one, Lori. Good one.
Man, I shouldn't have given my password out.
Is it Billy Joel?
Is it Billy Joel? He should look that good.
Is it Gorilla Glue? Is it Gorilla Biscuits? You sent me another one, right?
Yes, sir.
Let's see what else we got here. We wanted to mix it up a little bit today.
Yeah, a little variety today.
Here you go. Is it Edgar Winter?
I love this one.
Is it Frank Cariola? Good one. That's a good one. Is it Manowar? Is it pre-Cro-Mags? Is it Patty Cake? Remember Patty Cake? Wasn't Patty Cake the gorilla at the zoo?
Oh, that was actually the real name of the gorilla? Interesting.
Yeah. Kane Roberts. That's Kane Roberts?
Kane Roberts. Michael Lago is friends with Kane Roberts, actually.
Yeah, of course. Kane Roberts. I'm friends with Kane, too. He played in...
He was that big burly guitar player that Alice Cooper had.
Yeah. He almost made the cut for the Alago film. Okay, last one. Last one here, and then we'll do the tie-in. Here you go. Is it Lenny Dykstra? Actually, that's a female. I could tell that's a female, right?
Yeah, I believe that's a mom right there.
Wow. I must say, wow. Very pretty.
Yeah, I mean, I just love how expressive her hands are, and
oh yeah, absolutely, incredible. I mean, dare I say, she's like gorgeous,
Yeah. Oh no, and she had her kids with her actually when I took this. As a matter of fact, I think I walked the line of being just as close to them as I am to us.
Our guest asks, is that a vegan tribute for me?
Ah, interesting. Yes, that's true. They actually are vegan.
Yeah, they are vegan. For sure.
Although chimpanzees are not.
Gorillas right, but these are mountain gorillas. These are mountain gorillas.
Yeah,
mountain gorillas
sure.
are
Yeah, I shot some chimps too, and chimps will actually eat other monkeys. I mean, they're
So tell us about where this is. Tell us about these.
well, these three in particular, I took actually in the Congo of the Bronx Zoo. Myself and my best friend and I were both like obsessed with gorillas and the great apes, and we would constantly. We went to Chicago to their zoo and to Denver, like all over the place. Obviously, I can't get over to Africa to go and see them in the wild, so I go to the Bronx Zoo and I will spend like hours. I try to go early before like the buses full of uncontrollable children get there, so that I could spend time and just shoot them and just. I
gotta say, and I know, I know our guest, just sent me a message. It's awfully sad that these magnificent animals have to like live in captivity, man, in the fucking Bronx.
Yeah, you know what? It is. I mean, you would hope, and I hope that they're treated well, and it seems like a really beautiful spot that they keep them in. And there are some zoos that I hear terrible things about, and you're kind of like caught in that thing where, you want animals to be living well and to be treated well and rescued, and you want to be able to see them. As a New Yorker, you can't really, you want the access. So I think the Bronx Zoo does treat the animals well.
My brother, who, by the way, if anybody out there is coming on our walking tour on Saturday, you're all welcome. My brother's a special guest on the walking tour. But my brother just did an episode for Expedition Unknown, the show that he's a cinematographer for. They went and they chased what's it called, a Tasmanian tiger. They hunted it to extinction. They think there might be a couple, in the valley over there in Australia or New Guinea, and they're like, they have footage of it, but they think they actually hunted it to extinction in like the 40s or the 30s.
Humans mostly suck when it comes down to it. Like I feel like we've forfeited our position at the top of the food chain in so many ways. I'm just a fan of animals and the way that animals.
I know you're a big animal lover, man, and you're.
I really am, and
you're a big goat lover.
I do love the goats, man.
You do love the goats.
And you know what? I have them where I go visit them, and they're friendly. They know me, and like animals are awesome. I mean, there's
pigs,
two ways
man.
about it.
I'm a big pig fan. I like pigs.
Oh my God, they're super intelligent too, pigs.
Yeah, Yep.
But speaking of apes, look what we got here.
Speaking of apes, this is the tie-in here. As a matter of fact, this Sunday, August 15th, in the Magic Room, the birthplace of New York hardcore, in the A7, we have a show with Ape, All Proven Equal, Reaching Out, Posse in Effect doing the Beastie Boys tribute. They're a hoot. This is the third time they played the room. They are a pisser, man. They really do a great set of Beastie Boys stuff, and it's a lot of fun. We got Bowhead with Ronnie and Jerry,
Butterbrain,
and Butterbrain with Aaron, and then of course Examine is celebrating the release of their album Blessed. So everybody, come one, come all. It's a free show, you cheap fucks. This Sunday at the A7.
Examine just killing it, by the way. Their new record is just a monster. It's so good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Such a good record. And you know what? We got Ape, who also features members of Gorilla Glue. So
big time.
We had to bring the gorillas in for this one, and we any excuse for us to make a Planet of the Apes reference on this show is always welcome.
That's right, Lori Dawn. Butterbrain with Sally Mae. That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
Should be cool.
Actually, we should get Lori Dawn to do some Planet of the Apes art stuff for us,
because it's all about Planet of the Apes. God knows, right?
That's right. You freak!
Shut up, you freak! All right, I'll talk to you later, man.
Awesome. I'm gonna go get a good front row seat for this one now. So
go get keep shirking responsibility over there in the train yard. We'll talk to you later.
Somebody's got to do it.
Later.
See you in a bit.
What's happening? This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles live, and we are sponsored by the New York Hardcore Comics, the Organic Grill, Chain Reaction Records and Skateboards, DTFM Vinyl Distro, Chacho's Tacos, Generation Records, and the Texas Silver Rush is a jewelry design firm and boutique store located in the birthplace of the Texas country music scene in Fredericksburg, Texas. They specialize in working with musicians in all music genres to design and create unique one-off pieces, as well as to style them for stage, album covers, promo photos, and social media exposure. The client list includes Rock and Roll Hall of Famers Greg Rolle, Ringo Starr, and of course, my friends and yours, Agnostic Front. During this current never-ending pandemic, all information and online sales are being taken at their Facebook and Instagram pages, and of course, www.thetexassilverrush.com. Generation Records, since 1992, have been a mainstay of the New York metropolitan area music scene. Today, they offer a diverse selection of new and used rock, jazz, indie, hip-hop, punk, hardcore, metal, blues, soundtrack, and everybody's favorite reggae LPs, as well as t-shirts, posters, and other merchandise. They buy used record collections and music memorabilia and will pay you top dollar for them. Get that crap out of your house. Get that shit out of here. House calls made for large collections in the tri-state area. Call or email Generation Records at gmail.com and follow them on Facebook and Instagram. For those situated maybe somewhere across the world on the planet Earth, the tri-state area is New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. Just FYI. Last but not least, we're listing DTFM Vinyl Distro is a record store that specializes in underground music, punk, ska, hardcore, metal, and more. Located in the heart of Fargo, North Dakota's industrial district, shop in person or online at www.dtfmvinyldistro.com, where the motto is death to false metal. That said, let's clear the deck. Let's bring our guest on. What's up, Johanna? Make sure everybody's okay. Debo the Pro. There you go. Got the New York Hardcore Chronicles live on my big home theater, big screen. Right on. You know, you sent me a picture of that. I got that picture of here he is. For those that are wondering, this isn't happening right now, but he sent me a picture. This is what's going on up in Canada in Mark Tulch's house. So there you go. You picking my nose, bro? Picking my nose, or are you picking on me? All right, let's clear the deck. Let's clear the deck. Let's get it on. Let me get rid of this crap. Okay. And they said it couldn't happen here. Here we go. Today's guest is an artist, photographer, author, and producer who grew up on both coasts. He's known for his activities within rebellious skateboarding and music culture, photographing artists like Fugazi, Black Flag, Dead Kennedys, Circle Jerks, Minor Threat, Misfits, Ice-T, Beastie Boys, Run DMC, Public Enemy, and many, many more. His photography has been published in close to a dozen of his books, as well as other publications, including record covers, and has been exhibited in art galleries and museums, including the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. Please welcome, coming at us from the island of Manhattan, our old friend, Mr. Glen E. Friedman. Hey, man. Peace.
I think you left the bad brains off that list. With this audience, man, they're going to have your head.
I know, right? Yeah, they will. They probably already posted it. How could you forget the bad brains?
Misfits, everything. But anyways, yeah.
Well, I said many, many, many more.
That's all right. That's all right. Let's do it.
All right. So tell us, how did you come up? Where did you grow up? Did you grow up in a musical household?
No, not at all. But I did take my first record from my mom. I think was Sgt. Pepper. That was the first album that I decided to keep for myself. I'm a child of the 60s. That's why I'm a progressive, and I care about people. I'm not a fucking fascist like a lot of punk rockers turned out to be, or not punk rockers, hardcore kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crazy times. What actually, I kind of skipped one. What's the latest? Like, how you been doing during the pandemic? It's been a year and a half. Like, how has your life changed? How's the pandemic been treating you?
No, I mean, it's been treating me like it's been treating everyone else. But, luckily I work from my house most of the time. But, it's been up and down. I've been doing a lot of creating. I worked on a film early on. We were working on the film. And in the later stages, I've been working on a new book. And we'll get to all of that probably later on in the conversation. But I've been creating a lot of stuff. I had a wonderful, couple of wonderful things going on during the pandemic as well. It's been good and bad, and I've lost a lot of great friends, or several great friends, during the pandemic. It's real, it's fucked up, and it's like nothing we've ever seen before in our lifetimes. And hopefully we won't ever have to see it again, and hopefully it'll be gone soon.
Yeah, it looks like it's making a little bit of a comeback here in New York City, which is a real drag, But
fucking around, they don't want to trust anything. I mean, there's things you shouldn't trust, and then there's things you should trust. All the most, worldly and intelligent people I know have gotten vaccinated, and it just seems as though the ones who haven't are the ones who think they know something that we all don't know, but they also happen to be the least educated ones in our crew. And so what are you going to do?
Yeah. What came first, the music in your life, like going out and shooting bands, or going out and shooting skateboard stuff?
Oh, well, when I was skateboarding as a little kid, but I was listening to music too. But the skateboarding stuff, as far as photographing, came first for sure. I was in the schoolyards and I started photographing my friends because they were doing things that no one else was doing anywhere else on the planet. It just wasn't happening. And I noticed, a magazine came out, and I was looking at pictures in the magazines, and I was seeing that it really wasn't showing what I was seeing for the most part. And so I just, took it upon myself to start making pictures, like any other kid would. But I was like 13 when I started doing that. And by the time I was 14, I had my first photo published in Skateboarder magazine. They had no idea that I was so young. And, a couple years later, it evolved into me shooting music stuff. And, who wants to shoot music from a stage, because before that, and in the early 70s and the mid 70s, you were still having big stages. There weren't really nightclubs going on. That picture's of me in 1981, I think. Around 81. That's of me. That's not one that I took. That was
that's you. That's you skating. And
I'm a bit older by that time. I'm like 19 or 20 when that photo was taken.
So initially you were a skateboarder and loved skateboarding. That sort of document.
Skateboarding was my life, just like punk rock became my life, and music was my life. But I lived for my skateboard. That's what I did. That's what kept me out of trouble. That's what kept me alive. As a teenager, you have, you find yourself in certain things that you participate in, and skateboarding was where I was beginning to find myself. And then later on, even more so as someone who was, composing these images and creating things to help tell our story to other people. And
here you are as a young teenager. I'm assuming that this is a skateboard injury.
Yeah, that not only is that a skateboard injury, but that picture was probably taken about a month after I took my first published photo.
Oh,
so
wow.
That's what I looked like when I was first getting published. And I was 14, and I broke my arm, broke my shoulder actually at Kenter Canyon Schoolyard skating. And in fact, that broken arm is probably what started pushing me to being more of a photographer and artist and less an activity person, skating myself. I mean, I still skated for years, and I still do when the moment is right and the place is right and it's a cool place I want to ride. But that's really, that's where it all started. That was beside a pool in Santa Monica at Arthur Lake's house. Interesting thing about that to me is kind of nowadays is that I took pictures we parked in the same parking lot. That's like in 1977, that photo. We parked in that same lot with the Beastie Boys in 1991 when I took pictures of them in the hills and them dancing on the side of the street from my, Together Forever book. There's a lot of photos from that day that I did the Check Your Head album cover. This is the book those are in. Here you go. Crass Commercialism. I don't know if y'all have seen this beautiful book. Most people haven't. They don't know that it was out unless they follow my Instagram. But this has got more Beastie Boys and Run DMC photos. It's got everyone in it. And I talk about that story about, bringing it back to the base, bringing it back, full circle, that here I am in 1977 taking pictures of Arthur Lake at his pool. And then in 1991, I'm taking the Beastie Boys to the same spot, just
is that literally the check your head the Check Your Head photo?
No, the Check Your Head photo was taken right up by Tower Records, right on Franklin Avenue. There's ones of them walking, through a parking lot, and there's ones of them up in the hills. So there was a one of Adam Yauch that was used when he passed away on the cover of the New York Times magazine. That was all taken right across from that pool.
Got it. Let me ask you, as a young person, Who inspired you as a photographer? Did any photographers resonate with you?
I've never really, followed other photographers too much. I was never, but the magazines that I looked at as a kid was, Sports Illustrated. I had a subscription to that, and National Geographic I would see, and just the real beautiful, incredible photography that you would see in those magazines, and Surfer magazine as well.
Sure.
It was those magazines that, and my creative mother also, that gave me an aesthetic that, had me looking the way that I was and looking at things the way that I did. I think that, Craig Stesick, though, and Warren Bolster were at Skateboarder magazine, and they both did influence me in different ways. Craig with his creativity, Bolster with the technology aspects of it, what you had to do. I mean, remember, I was just 14, when I took my first picture that got published, and I was, 15, and I was like, a contributing, staff member of the magazine.
Absolutely. And early equipment here, and I did some research, and apparently, is that a Pentax? Is that your first camera?
Yeah, that's probably a Pentax KM, and what I use to this day is not much different. I'm not a big equipment person. I've got some, I bought some over the years, but this is, I still shoot film, and this is what I use. This is my camera.
Oh, wow.
K1000. It's like probably the cheapest 35 millimeter, the most easily accessible camera, ever made. They probably made more of those than any other camera, 35 millimeter camera. And it was usually back in the 80s and 90s, when you would take photography one, they would tell you, just get one of those. It's $100 and you're good.
Yeah.
Only a different lens maybe, but I just use the bare minimum. I never liked carrying a lot of equipment. I was never an equipment hound. It's really what's behind the camera. It's not the camera itself. It's what you put into it, and you can get good photos. All people using Canons and Nikons and all these fancy, things that they use, I think it's all bullshit myself.
Yeah, that makes yeah. Chris Hoffman.
That's a pretty embarrassing picture of me in a leather jacket and bondage pants for about the 3-month period that I wore that. It's probably like in 1979 or so. Yeah, maybe early 1980. And they needed a portrait of me for Action Now magazine. And my good friend King James took that in his studio, and there I was in front of the camera. Yeah, that's pretty embarrassing.
I see the black flag button. I see the public image button. The circle jerks 999. All right.
Yeah, man, that was good rock. That was punk rock before you kids invented that weird fucking anomaly hardcore. That was real punk rock. And then you had Black Flag. That was hardcore punk rock. And that's the music that I love. That's the music, that kept me going and that inspired me. You asked me who else got me to take the pictures. It's the subjects that got me to take the pictures, Drew. It's like, it was needed. I was seeing something and it wasn't being portrayed the way I thought it needed to be portrayed. And, you got to realize that about photography and documentaries and stuff like that. You got to look at the director's name and that person, or the photographer's name, and that person is really framing your view of things, And that could be a hindrance, or it could be, a great positive. So far in the genre of punk rock, there hasn't been too many good documentaries. It has people's perspective on it, and they look at, they sensationalize bullshit aspects of the scene. Fucked up stuff. They make our whole thing that we built and we live for look like, a menace to society in a bad way. And I frankly, anyone who knows anything about those scenes is insulted by those movies like, American Hardcore and a decline of Western civilization. They both suck, they really do. They've got some good moments in them. Both of them have some good moments, but for the most part, they belittle our scene and make it look more violent, make it look more, stupid than a lot of it was, So, you got to make things, if you want to help tell the story, you got to participate. And I didn't only need, I felt a responsibility to those scenes that I worked within to show it the way I saw it, to idealize it and compose it and make it look fucking beautiful as I thought it was.
Let's talk about, is this a page from Skateboard magazine?
That's from Thrasher. That was just
Thrasher.
They were doing an article on people who don't necessarily get recognized, people who are in the background. And that was a picture Stesick took of me in Thrasher. And as a skater, not as a photographer or as an artist. Right. That was me as a skater. I was pretty fucking honored to have Craig Stesick photographing me #1 and to make it into Thrasher in that article was that was great.
That was the big time. I want to
At that moment, about 1983.
Let's talk a little bit about this stuff here before we dig into the music stuff. Let's go here a little bit.
Yeah.
And is this the dog bowl?
Yeah, that's the dog bowl.
Okay.
That was, if you saw the movie Dogtown and Z Boys, which, I helped with and I was in, this is a pivotal moment in time, the shot of Tony Alva, doing the first frontside air, and with all the, with a bunch of other old Z Boys in the background, when this team was already disbanded. And that was that's probably my most iconic skate photo for sure that I've ever made. And if you look at it, it's just, it's pretty close to perfection as far as I'm concerned. You see,
it is. It's
incredible. You have Tony. Back then, no one else was even doing frontside airs. A couple people might have been doing them, but not with style like this. And Tony was the one who really, brought it to the next level. And and this is the first time it was ever shown in the magazine. Was this exact photo?
If I may be so bold, what is this? What is this? A 22 millimeter or a 17 millimeter lens? What would this be?
I don't know if you're being bold or just showing your ignorance. No, I'm just kidding. It's a 17 millimeter fisheye.
Hey, I'm not that ignorant then.
No, you're not. I just fuck with you. I got to fuck with you a little bit, Drew.
It's okay, man.
Yo, people, this guy harassed me for 3 years to get this interview, man, even before he had the show.
Well, do you remember I came up to you in the park and said, what the fuck's your problem with New York hardcore?
we don't want to get into that and turn away too many people. My problem with New York hardcore goes on is mostly, my problem with it is that mostly the music is whack and there's a lot of knuckleheads that got in the scene in those later years. But, that's just my opinion.
Hey, your opinion is 100% legit. Larry Kelly says the one from the same session, he's giving the finger is actually the best. Well, here you go, Larry Kelly.
That's not the same session. That's actually, it's funny because you asked about that lens. I got that 17 millimeter Takamar fisheye lens used on my 15th birthday. And so that is April of 1977, right after I got it, the used 17 millimeter lens. And that's in a pool where we broke into in Beverly Hills. So it is a different day.
Yeah, it looks like a break-in pool, being there's a bunch of stuff laying around.
Yeah, construction going on and rebuilding and tearing apart the pool. Yeah, that was something you could only ride from. You got out of school and you went there, and by 5 o'clock you had to be out because the people would come home from work. And also you were looking out for the police because that was in Beverly Hills, coming down the alley. You always had a guy on lookout.
Jeez, you ever get? Did you ever get busted for something like that? Did the cops ever swoop in and grab kids?
Oh yeah. Certainly they did, and that was just common. I don't know how to tell you. They're more, but back then you were actually more afraid of the owners than you were of the police.
Right.
Police usually wouldn't fuck with you. They kick you out. And sometimes, and if you were over 18, which I wasn't, and most of us weren't, they would. They threaten you, they put you in the back of the car for a few minutes or something, or tell you to get the fuck out of here. But the owners, they come after you with fucking shotguns pointed at you. And I've had a fucking guy with a chainsaw come out, rev up a chainsaw and try and chase us off the property, and you're fucking 16 years old. You think this motherfucker might really cut us up. You don't know what's going to happen. And so, running away from people. Yeah, that was, that was pretty common occurrence back then.
Our old friend Jamie Sharappa from SSD Control says, I still can't believe you gave in, Glenn, to do my show.
Oh, yeah, I can't either. I don't know. But, Drew's persistent. And I guess I don't know. What the hell?
There you go. I love this shot. And I love the composition. Love my eye caught the svelte 70s gal in the background with the bell bottoms on. Love it.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
That's Jay Adams from 1977 at the Dog Bowl again. I think you can see the dogs in the background. And you guys know, all these pictures. I think this picture is from, the book that recently got published by Akashic. This book. This is all my Dogtown stuff and Stesick stuff. If you're into that stuff, this is the book to get. We remade it. It's bigger. It's got more stuff in it. It's I'm going to be showing you guys all these books throughout the show just to make sure you got them. Because, as an independent publisher, it's not an easy deal. You know, I mean, a couple of my books were put out by, you know, the Together Forever was put out by Rizzoli and My Rules, but you know, that's the minority of my books, and even so, man, books is a tough business, and people just don't know about them. And I don't care how they get them; they can steal them if they want. I just want people to have them.
The art must be liberated.
What the fuck are you in shock from, Al?
That you're.
Oh, that I'm here. That I'm here. Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, we got to keep it real.
Yeah. Well, and we'll get to some SSD and Al stuff. What is? I can't figure out what's on his head here.
Oh, Tony, that's at the Dog Bowl too. That's Tony Alva wearing, you know, radio headphones. I mean, you literally would buy these at Radio Shack, people. And if you're not old like me, you might not remember it. And even if you are, not many people had them. So you would tune a little transistor radio into headphones that were on your ear, and you know, and they were headphones. You know, there was no, you know, cord or anything. It was just headphones with a radio built into them.
And you had to have, and it was getting like reception on the fly.
Absolutely, right? They had antennas on them for sure. You had an antenna on them, and Alva's got a bandana around it so it doesn't fall off while he's skating. You know, that one wasn't for style. That was just to hold it on. But if you could imagine him listening to KMET or you know, yeah, that was probably the only thing he was listening to back then, or KLOS in Los Angeles that were playing, you know, Led Zeppelin and Ted Nugent and Jimi Hendrix and, you know, Fleetwood Mac, Elton John, whatever bullshit that they were playing back then. But that's what, you know, people were listening to back then, you know.
Now that's you down there in the bowl, right?
That is. That's me. That's that same day that I took the picture of Alva giving the middle finger. That's a photo by William Sharp, I think. And yeah, that's me getting ready to take the picture of him giving me the middle finger. Me with those nice big, you know, all that long hair.
In shooting this stuff and being out there, it sort of reminds me is when, and to some extent, is when I was shooting the street bike films and sort of putting myself in the line of fire. Did you ever get hurt shooting like stuff? Because it looks like it.
Oh, I got hit a lot. I got hit a lot. Sometimes I got hit on purpose. You know, I was younger than everyone else, and people would fuck with me. You know, I was also from the nice side of town, so sometimes guys would hit me. But you know, usually, you know, it was an accident when people hit me. I think the worst I ever got hit was actually not too long ago. It was probably in the last 10 years. I was using someone else's camera, and it was just for fun. I was shooting with a digital camera because I don't shoot digital stuff. And I think Dan from Juice Magazine, let me borrow his camera to shoot a kid down at the Venice skate park. And again, I was just doing it for fun and getting really close like I used to do. And this guy just fucking nailed me right in hit the camera right in the lens and hit me right in the nose and gave me, you know, bloody bridge of my nose. But before that, the last time I got hit really hard, other than at some punk rock shows, was at Cherry Hill Skate Park in Cherry Hill, New Jersey.
Legendary skate park, right?
Yeah, back in 1978, I'd say. I got one of the Bentley brothers. They were from Southern Jersey. Yeah, smashed into my fisheye and just bent. And it was a later fisheye, and it bent back the fucking thing. But the lens wasn't broken, and neither was I. But it was, you know, knocked me down.
I got a question. We got a question from Ray up in Canada. Did Dogtown and Z-Boys do justice to film? And I know you were involved in it. Do you feel like it did justice to that period of time? Since we're talking about documentaries a little bit, let's throw that on the fire.
Yeah. Well, you know, that was, I think the film was excellent. I think it's great that it was made, but there were a lot of problems with it. And a lot of guys who were in the film had problems with it. Mm-hmm. And in fact, that inspired me to make a film for the 20th anniversary, which is this year, a short film, which is coming out probably in September. That you know, follows up on a little bit of those things that was missing from the film. But yeah, I mean, I think it did pretty good justice. I mean, it's an hour and a half documentary. You can't tell every story about every person. You know, again, it's the director, it's his movie, you know, and it's his perspective. I think there's amazing footage in it. It's a really great film. It does have some flaws. I can't say they're fatal. They were nearly fatal to me. I was really pissed off about one song not being of the era being in there. I almost got in a fight over that because I'm very particular about the music. I was disappointed about, you know, a couple of the little things, but that's a great film. I mean, you know, it's a really good film. But I think maybe, Drew, I don't know if you want to cue it up, but we got a little teaser for my documentary. Is this a good time to bring that up? Yeah.
The movie Dogtown and Z-Boys, you feel as though it's changed your life in any way?
Camera's rolling.
You must have really good stories.
So that's huge. Too bad.
How's that?
We're done?
No, we're not done.
Good stuff.
No, that's the teaser trailer that we just released like a day ago. And yeah, it's like a 26-minute film. And we talk to a lot of the guys that are still alive. And we give little memorials to those guys that aren't alive. And yeah, it's just a short little film. But, you know, we rehash it a little bit and see how it affected everyone's life. And yeah, it was a fun little
And
thing.
how long's it been now since the initial film?
20 years. It's 20 years
Wow.
the first film was released. Yeah. So this is like, we made this for the 20th anniversary.
Yes, Larry the Hunter. Even I could tell. Fu Manchu, correct?
Yeah, Fu Manchu does the whole soundtrack. It's fucking great. It's great. Those guys were really into it. They're big fans of, you know, the era and of my work, and they were really helpful. Scott Hill, great guy.
Yeah.
We got good stuff. They do the whole soundtrack. And I mean, like I said, it's only a 26-minute film, but I think it'll be out in September. And in fact, I don't know how many people are listening from Europe, but I think we're going to premiere it on the big screen. It hasn't been announced yet, but we're going to premiere it on the big screen at the opening of the Paris Surf and Skateboard Film Festival on September 23rd, and I'm going to be there. So if you're in Paris, come on down, say hello.
Now, is this the dog bowl with an actual dog?
Yeah, God, you're picking out a lot of dog bowl photos, but
Yeah,
there are.
I love these, man.
Yeah, there's some of the most classic ones. Yeah, that's Jay Adams. You know, the infamous Jay Adams, and a lot of people don't know the actual. You know, I don't. If you saw the fake film they made, there was a film called The Lords of Dogtown that was like based in reality. But the guy who owned the dog bowl, the guy who actually lived there, is right there in the left of that picture. He's sitting down there, and he had bone cancer, and you can't really see him that good. He's in the shadows. But that's one of the only known pictures I know of Dino from the dog bowl. It was Dino's dog bowl. You know, as we all knew it as back then, and then it just got called the dog bowl for the magazine. But that's Dino there on the far left. And yeah, there were always dogs around there. They had a lot of dogs on their property in that fancy house in northern Santa Monica, right off of San Vicente. The house and the pool were demolished. The pool was demolished about, I'd say, in like 2001. And then I think the house was demolished in the last 10 years and some other new McMansion was built on that property.
Was there Tristan DeGraves, who plays with me in Antidote NYHC, told me that he was suffering from cancer and there was a benefit, and like all sort of the old timers got together. Was it at this pool or somewhere? They sort of did a benefit thing for him? No,
no one did a benefit for him. You look at that house. He didn't need anyone doing a benefit for him.
Yeah, okay.
He had a party at that house, and Paul Constantino, you know, who, you know, really gets around back then. I think he was the one who discovered that this guy had this pool in his front yard, and you know, the kid no one was using it anymore, and he emptied it, you know, and it was a really exclusive, you know, spot. I mean, all pools were back then. You know, you had, you know, someone would find it, you wouldn't tell anyone because you wouldn't want to get busted, you wouldn't want to make it a zoo, you'd want to go there and ride and only have, you know, 3 or 4 of your friends, otherwise you're not going to get a ride, you know. And so it was a real tight situation there, and really, yeah, if you weren't there with one of the crew, you were not allowed in. I mean, yeah.
Where is my Glen? My black flag, Dez, you in the audience shot. Love this, man. Big, you know, this is there you are with the Pentex, right? And this is taken by how do you say it? Fez?
No, this photo was taken by Ed Culver.
Oh, Ed Culver, I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is an Ed Culver photo. That's me in the far right, and that's Dez singing with Black Flag at the Starwood. And actually, that's the first time I ever shot Black Flag. I had seen them before that, but that's the first time I took photos of Black Flag was at that Starwood gig.
How did Black Flag come into your orbit? I mean, huge band in my world, man. I mean, and in a lot of other people. But how were you exposed to them?
I mean, Black Flag became my favorite band. I mean, you know, people say different bands, different times, and a lot of people, it's very, you know, cool to say one band or another. But Black Flag was my favorite band during that era, the Dez era and the first few years of Henry. That was my favorite band. I came to know them just like most punk rock kids back then. There's me shooting Henry's first show, or what's generally known as Henry's first official show, singing for Black Flag. I'm there in the front row. That was taken by Fur Use. That was
that's it. Fur Use.
And they were, that was a couple that would take photos at shows and then just they would print out like laser copies and hand them out to people after the fact, like at Okie Dogs the next day or something like that, or a couple
That's awesome.
later. They had like their own kind of fanzine thing going for use. And they gave me this photo recently. Really good people. That's me in the front there. But we were talking about Black Flag. I mean, just like everyone back then, you discover music by going to the record store, reading magazines or fanzines, or you listen to Rodney on the Rock. There were very few people. People got to understand. I mean, there wasn't, obviously there's no fucking internet, and there weren't, magazines didn't even write about Black Flag at all yet. It was only fanzines, and really you would have to hear it on a radio show that would maybe be on, once a month or once a week, and that's how you found out about shit. And then you'd have to find an independent record store and be able to buy the record or see an ad in a fanzine and send away $2 in the mail and get the record sent back to you, get the 7-inch sent back to you. It really took a lot of effort to be involved in punk rock back then. It wasn't just something that came to you. And I mean, in many ways it still isn't, but it's so much easier to access everything, even in the last 20 years. I mean, back in this picture's in 1981, I think, by that time, people were going to shows, and maybe you could hear a Black Flag in like 5 cities, really weird alternative radio shows they would have on once a week, or on a college radio show. You might hear them. You probably didn't still, though. You just only knew about them because locally you knew about them.
I don't know. Is this a safe question? What did Glenn think of Maximum Rock and Roll magazine?
What did I think of it?
Yeah.
It was like most fanzines back then. I mean, I came from Skateboarder magazine when these things were all developing, and Skateboarder came from Surfer. So they were really beautifully designed professional magazines. I thought the fanzines were good because they filled a void, right? They didn't look very good, but they certainly filled a void. And Maximum Rock and Roll got a little crazy with all the, with the scene reports, right? I mean, I was a contributor. I was a columnist for Maximum Rock and Roll, I think for at least maybe a year. I just had my own little column. I would write a little editorial. I think that I started doing that after I quit working for Suicidal Tendencies, just to like let off some steam and, talk about, my experiences and where punk rock was going and how it was beginning to suck, in my opinion, in many ways. They had a cover story, Does Punk Suck?
Yeah, I remember that.
And this was like in 1984, and, because people were seeing that it was following, trends, and it was becoming very generic and much less creative. And, that was very disappointing to people like me. And it was a great article to have. Some people said it didn't. Some people said it did. I think I wrote about how it was becoming, the new disco. It was like, people would go to the shows and just, be there to be part of a scene, or just to, pick someone up or whatever. It was just a new social scene. And punk rock was the excuse for being there, for misfits and whatever other kind of people we were. Whereas in the beginning, it was more like, it was we were having fun, but it was an activity, and people were trying to, have a different perspective on the world, and not just go out to the, meat market, when you go out at night, but to actually have, intellectual discourse with other people, and hang out and, inspire each other. It wasn't just about, drinking and getting high, or, meeting people.
I have the flip around on that photo of Henry's first show at the Cuckoo's Nest, which is great because we saw you with the camera, and this is that show, correct?
That is that show, and
that's amazing that we have the flip around on it.
Well, there's a lot of photos I took at that show. That's not the exact same moment, but I've got, that's probably one of my favorite photos I've ever made.
It's intense, man. This is an intense photo.
It's not only there's incredible intensity in it, but the composition, people might not recognize it if they're not artists, but it's the reason you love that photo is because the composition is so good, right? The way Chuck's bass just frames Greg, and the way Henry's moving, and and Chuck is just coming into the frame. I mean, and just the intensity. I mean, they're all just completely going off like we used to when we would see Black Flag. The thing is, you got to know, it's like, people know me as a photographer, but I didn't use my camera half the time I went to shows. I just didn't bring it. First of all, you're in bad neighborhoods. Second of all, who the fuck wants to be a camera nerd? I'm not that guy walking around with a fucking camera around my neck. In fact, even when I went to shows, people who know and would see me at shows know that I usually had a little tiny backpack, and just carried my bag in a little backpack, and that was it. Only when I did take photos at shows. Now, this show was my show, so I did take photos, and I brought my fisheye lens to this show because it was my show. It was Black Flag performing as a favor to me at a party.
Is this, if I remember correctly, is this Mike Muir's garage?
No, it is not Mike Muir.
Okay. That sort of filtered back here to the East Coast.
No, I mean, everyone writes that on the internet because it was a party for suicidal tendencies. We had Black Flag performed at this party as a favor to me, because they always like to practice, but as a favor to me, did this party because we wanted to get together all the people possible to shoot photos of all the backs of the suicidal shirts, for their album cover that was going to be coming out, a couple months later. So actually that's Albert. I forget Albert's last name. It's Albert's grandma's garage, and it's in West Los Angeles. And Albert was one of Suicidal's main roadies. And it's his grandma's house. That's the garage is in, not Mike Muir's. But it's easy to make that mistake. I mean, people wouldn't know who Albert, Suicidal Roadie is. But it was Albert's grandma's house. I wish they'd correct that all over the internet so people stopped saying it was Mike Muir's garage. He didn't have a garage like that. His parents, he was still living at home, as was I at the time when we did this. We're all just like 19 or 20 years old. Maybe 21 at that time, actually. But that's Albert's grandma's. And that was an incredible show. That Black Flag, it was basically just a rehearsal for them, and Suicidal didn't even get to play one song. Their fans were so fucking wild. They just knocked over everything. I didn't get one picture. They tried playing songs like 4 or 5 times, and then we just walked out, and that was it. We got all the pictures we needed for the album cover, and and Black Flag packed up their shit and they left, and they were long gone by the time Suicidal came on. But that was a great show. If you look on YouTube, you could find footage of that Al Flipside made. And if you look really close, you could see me in the front when I put down my camera, just fucking going off with my black shirt on, just going off in the front, for those moments when I wasn't taking pictures. Because like I said, I like to, get wild with everyone else.
I love this shot, man.
Yeah. Well, that's one of my favorite shots of Black Flag posing. Unfortunately, Greg has got like sunflower seeds in his hand, which is, I don't know what the fuck, he's just like not paying attention. But that's the best Black Flag lineup, in my opinion, when Henry was in the group, with Chuck Biscuits and Dez still in the group. I mean, that was an incredible lineup. And and that photo was taken right across the street from the offices.
And what was that? Was that Redondo or was that Huntington?
Redondo Beach. Yeah. North Redondo. Yeah.
Redondo.
So Drew, do you want to make that exclusive announcement here first, right now, that we've just showed all the Black Flag photos?
That's what I was getting at. So why don't you tell us about what's going on?
Okay, so during the last couple months, I've been talking about it for a couple years, and this is the first place we're going to announce it. Yes, I am putting out a Black Flag book, and it's going to be out next year. It's incredible. It's 256 pages. And it's the same measurements as my Fugazi book. I mean, it's the same, size as this, but it's double the thickness because I've got over 300 Black Flag pictures, 70% no one's ever even seen before. And it's going to come out in April. So don't, if you want to, the link is right up there on there right now. You could pre-order the book. And for people who are pre-ordering, they even have an option. I could sign the books. But you should leave that link up a little longer, Drew.
Yeah, no, it's coming back.
Okay.
I'm trying to put a little reaction on there,
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
The Black Flag book is going to be amazing. I mean, it's really incredible. And I just finished designing it with the team over there at Akashic, and it's great. It's going to be an amazing book. It'll be out next year. If you do pre-order it, don't fucking write emails every month saying, "Where's my book?" It says right there when you order it. It'll be out in April. I know, because Ian's told me that a lot of people have been, when you ordered Discord box set. It tells you you're going to get it by October or November. And people are writing, where's my thing? I paid for it. It's called a pre-order, folks. And you help us, get these things off the ground by doing that. But yeah, the book is called What I See. And if you click on, the AkashicBooks.com page right there, you will actually get to see a preview of the cover too that no one's seen yet. And we just posted it today just for Drew's show. And it'll stay up there now, but we did that for the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live.
Thank you, buddy. And it has a forward from the Duke. Chuck Dukowski writes the forward, right?
Chuck Dukowski wrote the forward, and I wrote an 8,000-word introduction.
Nice.
Where, some of the stuff that you and I just talked about, how I got into Black Flag, where I discovered them, a little more detail in that, and just my whole history with Black Flag. And it's really just the 3 years, 1980 to 83, the book covers. I never saw Keith sing in the band back then. I obviously saw the Circle Jerks, some of their first shows, but I wasn't cool enough or old enough to see Keith sing in Black Flag. I did see Ron sing in Black Flag at the church, but I didn't have my camera like I usually didn't. And then the first time I photographed him, was when Dez was in the band, but that was kind of their peak era anyways. And also with Henry in the band. And I photographed them, right through 1983 only. And the book goes right up to the last time I shot them, right after Kira got in the band. And I did some band photos, some pose shots with Kira in the band. But yeah.
If you're wondering, the link there, it's www.akashicbooks.com /catalog/Black Flag book / if that's too much, just go to www.akashicbooks.com. You'll find it there. Pre-order the book.
Drew, maybe we'll put the link down in the comments later or whenever, right? Yeah,
for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let me see if I could do that. If I could do that now.
It's dark in here, man. The clouds coming out.
Hold on, I'll do that right now. Wah, 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 wah. Making magic.
Yeah, thanks for ordering the book in advance, people. That's great. I'm going to show. How about I show this old Stimulators Mad flyer in the meantime? This is a flyer from back in the day, man. This is, this shows you what was really going on in New York before you all came up with that New York hardcore title. This was New York punk rock after the initial Ramones, Talking Heads, Blondie era, Dead Boys and all that. It was the Stimulators. That was it. Absolutely. And then 2 years, that was in 1979. This came out in 1982. My Rules fanzine, that was in 82. What do you want to ask me about that, Drew?
So this was big, man. I mean, in my world, in our world, this was the first. It was a fanzine. It was a photo zine, and it was done. It had a glossy cover, and it was just fantastic. And it really connected the dots because you had representatives from all across the country in this book. So we really finally got to see, oh, wow, the Misfits, SSD Control, Bad Brains. And it was sort of like the top 20 players in it.
Reagan Youth.
And I remember buying one of these, if I remember correctly, at those Bad Brains Christmas shows in 82, right?
That is correct. I was selling them myself, and maybe some of my friends were also selling them for $2 a piece.
$2. Go figure.
And it was a one-time only zine. It was, I don't remember. I don't know if it was 52 pages, I think, something like that. But, it obviously inspired the book of the same name later, which was obviously taken from a Black Flag song. And we've got Darby on the cover there. It was hard to decide who the cover was, but since at that time Darby was the only one who had passed away, we put Darby on the cover, for the main shot. And as you can see, that collage around it of my, test, those are test strips for all photographers out there who used to make their own prints. I used to rip up little tiny pieces of paper, before I made my print to test the exposure through the enlarger. And I would save all those. I never wasted anything.
That's
and I
awesome.
would save all those, and those are the proper exposures, and that's what those were. And on the back cover too.
And what was cool too about this is a couple of the subjects had a couple of words in there, and you got to.
I went around.
Go ahead.
I went around to my best friends in the country. We had Al from SSD Control, who I know is listening today. We had Chuck Dukowski. We had Ian Mackay. We had Barry Hensler from the Necros from the Midwest. We had HR, who was living down in Maryland at the time. We had Jello Biafra from the Dead Kennedys, and we had Biscuit from Austin, Texas. I don't know if and Keith Morris also all wrote stuff. I told them all, I said, there's not going to be any words in this zine, except for in the back, I'm going to have these ingenuous editorials. And I told them they could write whatever they wanted, and they all did, and they contributed wonderfully to the book. And yeah, it was great. It was a one-time only thing. I printed 10,000 of them at that time. The biggest fanzines were only selling 3,000 or 4,000. And but
10,000. That's a big number at the time. 10,000.
Big. We sold out of 8,000 of them in the first 2 years. I mean, the thing was, is the other zines were coming out every 2 months, right, or every month. So but this was going to be something that was only going to come out once. So I knew I could make a lot of them, and yeah, and it was great. I mean, it was great. It gave me lunch money for about 5 years.
Good.
From all the mail I would get, coming through my P.O. box.
So we're talking about those Babrians Christmas shows in 1982. Here's a shot taken by Phil and Flash of SSD Control on stage, and you're right down there with the camera in your hand.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but one of these shots ended up in the photo zine, correct?
I don't know if SSD Control played the 1981 shows or the 1982 shows.
It was 82.
Then one of these shots didn't, but I did shoot. No, the pictures I got of them in My Rules were from the Staten Island Paramount Theater show.
Woo!
Yeah. Yeah, the pictures in My Rules from Staten Island, I'm about 90% sure. But then a picture that I did take that day from that photo you just showed. There you
with the big gun in your hand right there.
Yeah, right there in the center of the frame. That's a great shot that Phil and Flash took. And what's that? Keith over there, slam dancing, the kid from
Good eye. Good eye.
Yeah, real estate agent last time I saw.
James Belcher on the right. Yep.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm trying to think. Shot from this day though did make it onto the SSD Control lyric sheet from Get It Away.
Right.
And that was taken that day at CBGB's. Yeah.
Gary Olfert says, I guess the original, photo zines are going out. They're up. He says one's on eBay for starting at $350.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen them on there for as low as $30 starting bid, but it depends on where you look. And it definitely, if it's like in pristine condition, they sell for about $300, $350. But there's this thing. Let me just show you guys. Speaking of My Rules, I can barely lift it with one arm. If you don't have this fucking monster already, that bears the same name, this is the book to get. Because this fucking has all the Fuck You Heroes and Fuck You 2, all the best of those, but printed better than ever, and this thing fucking weighs like 8 pounds. I know I'm not that strong, but it's fucking heavy. This is a great book. And if you only get one of my books, right now, today, this is probably the one you want, but you can get them all if you want. But this one, My Rules, the book, that shit's incredible.
Here you go. Here's the infamous Paramount show. Dead Kennedys, DOA, Kraut, SSD Control. And that was...
Infamous Riot appeared after that show.
Oh,
God. Into the neighborhood. We're not having us punk rockers over there at all. It fucking shit went wild there.
Yeah, yep. Rich Zoller, one of our photographers here in New York, says, such a quality book.
Thank you very much. I know that name. I think I've seen that name in my Instagram box or something. He sounds very familiar.
Let's talk about let's talk about this iconic photo and what this thing is launched. I mean, dare I say this might be...
Hey, Jamie, are we doing okay? Let me know, Jamie. Are we getting boring here?
No, Jamie's good.
I wanted him to know. That's my man. He will give me an honest opinion, and he's an English teacher.
Yeah, he is.
Jamie from SSD Control. He'll keep it real. He'll say, Glenn, you got to pick it up some or do something or talk about this or that. Anyways, yes, that is that's one of my more well-known images that's been parodied quite a good number of times. And that was good, man. That's a good day. That was when they got back. They were together. I think they broke up permanently just not long after that. And that was used on the cover of of the Salad Days 7.
Okay, Nancy Burrell says it's great, so we're all right. We got and Al chimed in regarding.
Nancy's too nice, though. Nancy's too nice. When has she been on the show yet? Are you going to do a Nancy?
Whoa, Nancy's been on the show.
Okay. No, I know that she was on the show. I thought, was she on the show by herself, though?
Yes, she was.
Okay, good. I'll have to go back
to celebrate the release of her book.
That's great. Yeah.
All right, Jamie says so far so good. So we're all right.
Thanks, Jamie. Keep us in line. You can call me on the line.
And Al Burrell from SSD Control says Glen's photos have always stood out from everyone else, and that's not easy to say.
Thanks, Al.
So there you go. So this minor threat shot. I mean, has this looking at this? Has this thing been cropped through time? Because I don't think I ever noticed the lawnmower on the left. Or is that a prosthetic leg sitting there on the left?
Yes, it is,
I never noticed that stuff.
Well, on the 7-inch, it was just square. On the 7-inch that originally came out, but in Minor Threats, complete discography on the CD, I think we used the whole frame. But it was definitely in Fuck You Heroes full frame, and it was definitely in My Rules full frame. And in My Rules, it's fucking huge. It's never been printed so big as it is in My Rules. The book, not the zine, in the book.
And of course, this. Hold on, let me clear the deck.
I can't believe we're doing this live, Drew. You better have your shit together, man.
Yeah, I'm getting good at it. So this, I love all these knockoffs, bro.
Yeah,
some of them resonate. Some of them are just so great.
This one might be my favorite one, man. I love that.
It is good, bro.
I got a t-shirt of that. That's great. Yeah, I love that. Minor Sabbath.
Yeah, and then there's this one. This one's pretty great too, I must say, because it's like when you look at the guys, they just seem so. You could just picture it. It's so perfect. I love this one with the Beatles, man.
On this one's amazing too. My friend Aaron Hawkins did this. The thing that's, if you look at this one and the previous one, not only do they have, they put the right people in the right positions. The drummer, is Jeff Nelson, Ringo Starr. The bass player is.
Right.
Actually, this one isn't correct, is it? Because it has. So that one isn't absolutely correct, but I think the Black Sabbath one is. Yeah.
Yeah, Lennon's on point. It's great. And where is? Oh, come on! This one kind of steals.
Mixed up there.
Not that we're going to take much more time on this, but I got to let this one fly too, bro.
This one is huge. The what is that? The Golden Girls? Man.
It's the Golden Girls, bro.
Bootlegged into T-shirts and all that stuff. I got nothing to do with that, and it's pretty crazy. But it's all a compliment, really. I mean, people mean well. It's fun. And
then I got to do last but not least. Okay.
Home
is Bart and his crew, right?
Yeah. That one's great. I love it. It's great.
Yeah.
I don't know if Mac Ronig actually did that, but whoever did, man, I'm very flattered. It's great. I love it. It's so good. That's so good.
That's great. Yeah. I mean, is it surreal to is it surreal when an image like that becomes so iconic and you just see what happens with it?
It's like it's hard to predict. Who would know that would be the one that would resonate with so many people? They started bootlegging that on sweatshirts back in the in the 80s, and it's who would know? And I think it's cool. I think it's good as long as a corporation doesn't steal it and start selling shit off of it. As long as it's just fans, I'm 100% good with that.
Right on.
And I love it. I mean, it's flattery, man. It's great. It's really nice that people make your shit, the iconic image. I mean, I know I shoot great stuff. I love it from my eye, but it takes everyone else to appreciate it as much as I do to make it, rise to that level. And it's nice that your perspective could become the one that people recognize as the perspective. And that again is an honor, but, I accept it, and it's because of my passion for the subjects and my, I live the lifestyle. It is my lifestyle. Whether it's skateboarding, punk rock, or hip hop, there are things that I believed in. There are things that I lived for, and that's why I made the great photos I did. Right? It's just because those people inspired me, and I had my eye and my vision in the way I saw it, and that became something that spoke to other people, and that's great.
Absolutely. Let's talk about this a little bit. People have been chiming in the chat room a little bit. And
Man, you don't stop, Drew. You don't stop.
Yeah, well, this is a band that you got involved. Now, the Dog Bowl, right? Going back to the Dog Bowl. Tony Alva, Jay Adams, Stacy Peralta, Jim Muir, Mike Muir's brother, correct?
That is correct. One of the original.
Shobo Kubo, is that correct?
Shogo.
Yeah.
Yep.
So was the connection here that you got acclimated with Mike, and then met his little brother and this band? Like, how did you end up managing and producing this band?
Jim took care of me like a little brother. Jim is a great guy to this day. And when we would go on skate, expeditions, down to San Diego or whatever, there was one time where there was a big party down there and I had to be home. Like I couldn't sleep overnight. I couldn't show up at 3 a.m. I was 15. My mom would have freaked out. And, Jim would drive me back from San Diego, even though we were down there all day skateboarding and me taking pictures or whatever and hanging out with those guys. Jim gave me a ride home that night. And like I said, and in fact, Jim, before I even took photos one day, crashed into me on the banks, hit me skateboarding at Kencher. And he was like, 6'3" at the time or something, it felt like. And I was like probably, under 5 foot at the time. I was just a little kid, and he helped me up, and made sure I was okay and stuff. So me and Jim have been tight for a long time. I knew Mike, some 5 years later, I would meet Mike at a punk rock show. And that was Jim's little brother. They didn't look a whole lot alike. But, Jim had really that bright red hair and Mike didn't. But I was introduced to him and, we were friendly. But then we met at Santa Monica College together. We were in school and Mike gave me his demo. And by that time I was already, I'd already shot the Adolescence first album cover. And I was doing stuff in punk rock. And Mike, of course, knew me from Skateboarder Magazine like Ian did and like Henry did. They all knew because they all read Skateboarder Magazine. But Mike, we were in the same school together at Santa Monica College, and he gave me his demo, and I thought it was great. I really liked it because, we came from the same place. I mean, Suicidal Tendencies was like Dogtown on wax, right? It was like, it was punk rock, but with like a lot of heavy metal moments in it, when you had the Dunnigan brothers and Mike Ball, the original guitar players and drummer of the band, writing those songs. They were very into, you should show the back cover of that. They were very
I'm working on it, baby.
They were very into, heavy metal. And so I love the Suicidal demo. The problem is that when Suicidal Tendencies would play, they had a really rowdy, fucked up following. So thought the rest of Los Angeles. I mean, I was from, the west side of LA and I knew Mike and I knew their crew. And, so I was okay with it. I thought it was just crazy. I just loved it. I just loved the intensity and the fun that everyone was having. And so, Mike gave me this demo. It was great. For people who don't know, that's the first time I ever had an album cover. It was the back cover of the Adolescence album. Lisa Fancher asked me to do it. I think I got $50, maybe $75. They wouldn't all pose together because Tony saw that Casey had a swastika on his shirt and thought he was a fucking idiot, and he wouldn't pose. So I couldn't get a group shot of them. And I learned that day that you shoot individual shots of each person, you'll get a lot more personality than you usually will in a group shot. And, we didn't show the full swastika there on Casey's shirt. And of course, Casey wasn't a Nazi. It was just, early punk rock days and people are just trying to, freak people out and shock people. But Tony, of course, was a smart kid, is a smart guy, is a super fucking incredible individual and nice guy. And he wouldn't stand for it. He wouldn't stand for it. He wouldn't stand.
Steve Soto, rest in peace. Yep.
Yeah, and Tony just had a conscience, and he wouldn't pose with him, which I never knew that was the reason why I thought they were all just being brats and in a fight that night after the show. I think those pictures were taken after the Stardust Ballroom show outside in the back there. But that's why I got 5 individual shots, and that's my first album cover. And there's pictures inside, too, that I took at Basie's Hall. That's a picture of me and Mike Muir on St. Mark's Place.
Is that right? Eating
St. Mark's pizza back then before I was vegan. It's 1983, so I just got my fat laces maybe for the first time. And it's and I think Suicidal came through town and we played CBGB and Great Gildersleeves. And that was the CB show was incredible because I invited John Watson. No one knew who they were at that time. The album just came out in June, and this is like in July. And our good friend John Watson loved them, and he was a good friend of mine. And I got him at the show for free. I said, just have a good time, man. Just destroy the stage. Slam all over the place. Let people know how good this band is, because I think I had given John an early tape or the record, and he loved it. And that was the first time Suicidal Tendencies ever played New York. We were all in Amory Smith's father's old orange camper.
Nice.
It was amazing.
Here's a super chat from our friend Mark Tulch up in Canada. Says, that first Suicidal Tendencies album is so killer. Did you leaving influence the direction they went, or did the direction they went influence you leaving?
That's a good question. Very good question. We did the first album, and I was managing them for a while, and I'm not going to get into it too much, but I think, it's a weird thing because of the gang and stuff like that was getting around them, and certain people's, love of violence, I got it to stop for a little while as their manager. I kind of got them to stop going in that direction of the gang and being violent. And, it wasn't peace and love, but it was just like, come on, we don't need to be a gang. It's just like, we got to speak out against gang violence and just stupidity that some people were, not a majority, just a few people were just doing some dumb things. And I just found out that eventually, they started doing these things again after they got successful, and no one was speaking out about it because they didn't think it was important. They thought maybe it was even good publicity to have bad things said about you. And when we were about to make it official, even though I was doing work for them for over a year or 2 years, I just realized that they were not being honest with me, and I just walked out, shook everyone's hand, and said good luck. And I literally didn't see them since then. I mean, the guys who were in the band, I haven't seen any of them since that day that I left. I left my impression. No, I didn't really. I mean, anyone knows the first album is the best one, but that is for most bands. I didn't. I don't know. I mean, it's all water under the bridge now. Me and Mike were best friends back then. For a while, we were really good friends, and we did it together. I helped them out a lot, and I learned a lot. But I knew a lot about the music industry that they didn't know. And if it wasn't for me, they wouldn't have gotten signed to Frontier. No one wanted to sign.
What's the Frontier? From what I understand, the Frontier deal was contingent on you sort of producing it and managing them. I mean, and the Frontier connection is the Adolescents, correct?
Yeah. Well, Lisa Fancher, the incredible record, company owner of Frontier Records, she had put out the Circle Jerks' first album, TSOL's first full album, China White was another album that she put out that was big at the time.
Yep.
And they hadn't had a punk rock release in a while, and she was looking for something, and I brought this to her, and it took a while to get it on her, but she said, everyone hates these guys. I really can't, you got to control it. If you're going to do it, I'm going to put all my confidence in you, Glenn, and you're going to have to handle the project. And I said, look, I've been in the studio with you, Lisa, when the Circle Jerks were recording, when Adolescents were recording, when TSOL was recording. And I know those were overproduced records. I'm going to do this. I've been in the studio with Black Flag recording Damage. I know a little bit about this, not much, but I knew enough and had enough confidence to say, let me do this. And they had an experienced engineer, and I produced the album, and we recorded it in 3 days, vocals and basic tracks the first day, vocals and dubs the second day, and mixed it the third day. And that was that,
No, just get in there and get it done.
A month before that, they were rehearsing every day in Amory's garage, every single day, getting those songs down frontwards and backwards. And, that's kind of, I don't know, I skipped around a little bit, but that's kind of how it happened. And you had that front cover shot, because back then, no self-respecting punk rock band would put their own picture on the cover. You had something artistic or something interesting, you're making a statement. But since, I'm a photographer, I wanted to take a photo of them, and I thought it would be very punk rock to have them hanging upside down and to do this at sunset with the fire burning behind them and shit. And this
where was this shot, in Venice?
That's down. It's down further from Venice in Playa del Rey, and that jungle gym was there for many, many years. It was just a kids' jungle gym we had them hanging on. And I'll tell you, if you look closely at the faces, those guys are in fucking pain. I had them hanging upside down for a while. And we had a couple of the roadies, like, Luigi especially, because he was heavier, the roadies had to come and push him up, and get a rest every once in a while, because he's just hanging upside down. It was too hard on that motherfucker. And, and then we had the fire burning. And that's only when I got the shot. The flames got up really high at one point, and Louis was afraid he was going to get on fire. And I didn't even get a shot of that. I got a couple other shots, but the flames went out pretty quickly. But we got that one shot. And if you look really close, you could see the moon up there. And yeah, it came out pretty great. It came out pretty great.
Hey, let's take a minute. Let me do some sponsor stuff. We'll take a break and we'll come back and we'll talk about some hip hop stuff. Okay.
Whatever you want, man.
All right. You asked for it. You got it. This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. Our guest today is Glen E. Friedman, photographer, author, producer. You bought the ticket. Let's take the ride. Excited about this show. Hope you're enjoying it. We are sponsored by The Organic Grill, the Texas Silver Rush, Chain Reaction Records and Skateboards, DTFM Vinyl Distro, Chacho's Tacos, Generation Records, and New York Hardcore Comics. They opened back in 2013, selling comic books, punk rock, and hardcore memorabilia, toys, statues, skateboard decks, tapes, vinyl, and all things horror. We love helping bands push their demos and new tracks, so please stop by and drop off your new music. We have in-store events like Magic the Gathering and Warhammer tournaments, plus meet and greets with bands and some live performances. Open 7 days a week and shipping worldwide. Find us online through Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and eBay. Located at 117 Main Street in lovely Dobbs Ferry, New York. www.newyorkhardcorecomics.com. Come on now. It's time for Chacho's Tacos. Located in Corpus Christi, Texas. Chacho's Tacos opened the doors in 2001. Home of the almighty Chacho's Taco. They cook up an incredible home-style Tex-Mex food, and this month they're celebrating their 20th anniversary. They've been supporting underground music since the beginning, and in their own words, we ain't stopping anytime soon. Touring bands that play Corpus Christi, swing by and get a home-cooked meal. At Chacho's Tacos, we got you. The underground scene will never die. Please follow us on Facebook and on Instagram. Those out there that would like to support the show, please support the show. There is a Patreon page. Don't be a Hatreon, join Patreon. That's how you can support this rolling circus that is continued on. The reason the show continues on is because of your support. Seriously, it's like Channel 13, a little bit of that. But people support the show. It's inspiring. I keep doing it. We get great guests. People love the show, want to be on the show. It's because of your support. I do a lot of homework for the show, and you enable me to do it. You're an enabler. So come join Patreon. Be an enabler. Enable this friggin' show, will you? There's also, for those that may shy away from the statistical density or conceptual continuity of Patreon, there is a PayPal address too. PayPal, stone4124@AOL.com. That's right. I got my email address at the dawn of time. Me, Jesus, Moses, we're all still on AOL. So there you go. Please support the show. We got a lot of great shows coming up. You know what? I'll mention another one on Wednesday, September 15th. Another filmmaker, I'm excited. A guy whose heart is really in it to win it. Mr. Sunny Singh is going to be on the show. Wednesday, September 15th. Hate 56, Philadelphia represent. Sunny Singh coming on the show. And also, got to mention this one, episode number 145. Walter Monster Ryan, with quite a resume coming on the show. Powerhouse, Possessed, Madball, Marauder, Sub-Zero, Lords of Brooklyn, and DRI. Walter Monster Ryan, Wednesday, September 8th. Don't be scared. That said, I think we covered. If you're watching the show in rerun, there is a subscribe button right there. Please subscribe to the Stone Films NYC YouTube channel. If you have a communication device, which many people do on this planet these days, which people are blowing up as we speak right now, please follow on Instagram, Stone Films NYC on Instagram, so you can get updates. There is a merch line underneath. Please, if you want the New York Hardcore mug or the New York Hardcore shower curtain, the pillows, the socks, the do good things, and good things will come to you. line of stuff, it's all on there. I want to shout out a couple of new patrons: Linda Nardelli, Jeff Steiner, Marcos at Punk Oi Hardcore. Okay, that said, everybody okay? Yes, Chacho's Tacos, bro, in Corpus Christi, Texas. Great show. Thanks, Drew. Well, thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. D says, this episode is fascinating and interesting already, and only an hour and a bit in. All right. Strap in. We still got a way to go. Let's bring our guests back on. Let me clear the deck. Let me entertain you. Let me clear the deck. Where were we? Get rid of that. Get rid of this. Get rid of that. Okay, good. Let's bring our guests back on. Mr. Glen E. Friedman. Hey, man. All right, let's see. Where do we go? Where do we go from here?
The guy said only an hour and a half in. How the fucking long does he think he wants us to go, man? I'm not getting any of that Patreon shit.
Hey, you sold a few books on the fucking show already. Relax.
You think so? I don't know. We'll find out later.
Yeah, you will, man. Let's see. Let's talk about how did the hip hop thing come into play for you, and how did that get going?
Well, it's funny. It's a good lead-in from Suicidal, because around the same time I quit working for Suicidal, hip-hop, I was already listening to hip-hop. I already had Run DMC's first album. And then, like about 6 months after I quit working for Suicidal, the Beastie Boys came to Los Angeles with Madonna. And they didn't know anyone else in LA, so they called me, to help them, before they were coming. And I hung out with them when they were in LA. They didn't know anyone else. And I got them on KXLU. We went down to Adam Baum's show. We did a bunch of photos on the Loyola Marymount campus. That's exactly where that fucking photo was taken, at Loyola Marymount. Nice shot, Drew. Nice one. And a lot of those, that whole session, actually, I tell that whole story in here. That's in this book, the Together Forever book. And that's, there's all the photos from that day, or all the best ones from that day, are all in this book. And that was, so they came out. They were my friends who were in a punk rock band in New York, and they were all of a sudden rapping. And I thought hip hop was it really was, it was cool to me. It was different, and I just liked it. And I just thought it was, and these are my friends that, that are doing this. I'm like, cool, let's hang out. And I just stopped managing Suicidal. So I had, I was in college still, but it gave me something to do for the 3 days they were there. And, being with those guys is just a fucking, even back then, I mean, I would have tears running down my face from laughter. There's such pranksters, such jokers. And, so we get together. They're on Madonna's tour. They're getting booed off a stage. We go to Madonna's first ever gold record party, because it was Madonna's first tour as well. And, and there's all these celebrities there, and we take all these pictures with the celebrities, just fucking goofing on people, right? No one knew who the fucking Beastie Boys were. They were just these fucking clowns who opened up Madonna's show. The story is that Madonna wanted Run DMC. She couldn't get Run DMC for, $1,000 a night or $500 a night, whatever it is. And then she couldn't get the Fat Boys. And so Russell said, I got someone for you. And he gave them to the Beastie Boys. And that's how they ended up on that tour. And, but it opened a lot of doors for them. And it got me to, and I was so, inspired and having a good time hanging out with them. I started just making photos, just for the hell of it. Just let's make some photos. Let's have fun. And it was only 3 people. And I'm so used to shooting 4 people in a band. It's so much easier when there's fewer people. And we got all these great shots, in LA, and sent them back to New York. And Rick Rubin sees them, and Russell sees them. And Rick had my rules. Rick was in a punk rock band.
Absolutely.
And so he knew my stuff. And he was stoked to see, that I had done this photo session, which he still thinks to this day is one of the greatest sessions, ever. And, and everyone just loved all the work that I did with the Beastie Boys. And I was just doing it for fun. And then we had all these, pseudo bullshit publicity photos. And they just started getting signed to CBS Records. Def Jam was an independent label being run out of Rick Rubin's dorm room when I first contacted them, and when we were first talking. And then they got signed up to that. And so, there was an outlet for all these photos. And then all of a sudden, I'm still at UCLA after Santa Monica College, where I met Mike, and I'm at UCLA, and I'm helping them with all their bands that come out. After they saw the photos that I did with with the Beastie Boys, whenever they would have a group out, and because of my experience working with Suicidal Tendencies and radio and promotion of that band, And because, of course, I got them on MTV, we did the video and got them on K-Rock, which, kind of helped get it on MTV because I knew Rodney Bingenheimer. I was learning about music and the promotion of it, right? And so I knew about these things. And so when they brought the Beastie Boys to town and then all the other groups later, I started working with Def Jam. And I was like their West Coast representative for a while. So not only was I doing the photos of the bands that I liked, but I was helping promote their shows and do different things and get them on the radio and stuff like that.
Did you? I'm assuming you saw them when they were a hardcore band playing like A7 and stuff.
I saw the Beastie Boys playing at CBGB's on a matinee one day, and I thought they were whack.
Yeah, you and me both, bro.
I thought that but I thought most of the bands of that era were whack, anyways. All those ones that you've named throughout the show that I didn't photograph. I think I didn't really care for their music at all. I don't even think you could barely call it music. But some people like noise. That's okay, and people like yelling. That's okay. But no, the thing that I didn't like about the Beastie Boys really is that they were making fun of the punk rock audience. But I mean, in retrospect, it made a lot of sense because it was becoming, hardcore. I remember when it was punk rock and when it was hardcore punk rock. And when people, much like slam dancing, you remember when the name comes up. People were doing these things for a while before all of a sudden the name sticks because Rolling Stone used it or because Tim Summer wrote about DC hardcore and all of a sudden
DOA Hardcore 81.
Yeah, but that was just the name of an album. That wasn't meant to be a genre of music because they were a punk rock band. They had melody. DOA was Joey Shithead, Chuck Biscuits, and Dimwit later. Randy Rampage, Greg. DOA is an amazing band. They were one of the trailblazers of America that people don't really realize. Even before Black Flag did it, DOA was doing it, and Black Flag kind of at the same time started doing it. But DOA really. They killed it. But anyways, I digress, as people often do on this show. What was I talking about, Drew?
You know what? Let's talk about.
We were talking about the Beastie Boys and all that stuff, and somehow it got to that. But I think
but hold on. I have another chapter. Hold on. This is. I'm going to segue into this right here.
Okay, that's a lot later. Yeah.
Yeah, but while we're on the Beastie Boys tip here. This, of course, this is Check Your Head. Is this the actual Check Your Head shot, or is this from the session?
I took 3 shots of them sitting on that curb, and to me, this is the best one. Okay. The one that was on the album cover wasn't the best one, but this is the best one, I think. They were, and the truth is about this cover is that when we were sitting there that day, Yauk was telling me, this was just a few moments that we did this, but it was my idea to have them, because they were playing the instruments again, which I had heard because I was there while they were sequencing the album. Right. And I hadn't seen them for a couple of years. They had moved to LA and the album just sounded I just loved it. I just couldn't believe how great it was. And I said, look, I know you guys already got an album cover, but let's just go out and shoot some photos tomorrow like the old days. I have to go back to New York tomorrow night, but let's just do it during the day and let's just shoot these photos and let's have fun. I had to get on the red eye or something like that. And they said, yeah, for sure. We were all really pretty fucking friendly. We were, we got along good. And so we went and did these photos. And Yauk said, I have a couple of ideas. I'd really like it if you can get us a shot, that's like the Salad Days photo. I'd really like to get a shot because he had the Salad Days photo, that single like up on his wall, I think. And Adam was like, he's like, I want a picture. Hold on. He said, I want a picture of Minor Threat. Of the Beastie Boys that speaks as much as that Minor Threat does to people. And I said, okay, and I kept that in my mind. And I figured we would go up to his cabin and shoot a picture similar to that, and that's what we did. But when I shot that picture of them sitting on the curb, I knew and I felt that was actually the feeling that he wanted. Was it might not be the exact setup like this shot on the right is that you see here that was later used, for a T-shirt and in some records or something. This was the direct mimic, but the feel of the Salad Day shot is the one of them sitting on the curb, right? Yeah. And that's that, I love that shot on the right, though. I love seeing the cat's tail walking out of the picture. That's a great shot. And that was at Adam's place in Laurel Canyon up there on Lookout Mountain Road. I could say that because he doesn't live there anymore. I wouldn't give it away otherwise.
I put this up for a second, and this, of course, Washington Square Park, correct?
Yeah, that was taken back in 1987. This was taken right when it's Christmas time, as you could tell, and the album came out in November. So this is the Christmas tree under the Washington Square Arch. And this is before they got big, and Spin Magazine called and said they wanted a cover shot of the Beastie Boys. And so we went out that day and did our damnedest to get a good cover shot. The photo they used was whack because that's just, the photo editor was a great guy, actually. One of the first people who helped me get my bearings in New York. George Dubose, a great photographer, a great guy. But the editor of the magazine, Guccione Jr. was kind of a kook. He was a nice guy, but he was, his taste in photography, he followed his own whim, but I had so many good pictures that day that you could see in the Together Forever book that they didn't use on the cover. But, we got the cover. It was my first spin cover and maybe my only spin cover, I think. I don't remember. But yeah, we went that day. We went not only to the Arch, but we went to the Sloan's Market up in Chelsea and, and shot pictures in the street in front of Def Jam on 298 Elizabeth Street. We did a lot of great photos that day. And again, they're all in the Together Forever book. And then, of course, before that shot, I shot these shots. This is my first time to New York. I was still living in LA. My first time back to New York for a photo session when Run DMC had met me out in LA. They wanted to bring me back to shoot their tour book and to shoot their photos. So I came back and hung out with them, for a couple of days out in Hollis. And then they actually opened up the Ritz for us to do a live, pretend like it was a live show. So photos of that are also in the book. But they did a live performance again, kind of just for me to get photos of them. And it was great.
I love how Joe, I love Joe's sort of, he's like a superhero, and like, I could feel it, man. I could just feel, Joe's my all-time favorite, man, him and Rakim. But, it's like he's ready to put like Scarlet Witch, put a hex on you with his rap,
Well, I think that was kind of the thing back then in the hip hop era. People would pose and make hand signals and stuff. I always actually thought that was corny, and you never saw this photo until it was in this book. That photo was never published until this book, and I thought that was corny. So you have other photos then with their arms crossed or whatever, and just more badass b-boys, not just posing and shit. But, as the years go on, photos take on different meanings and compositions look different and you look at different things. And, of course, that photo you just showed is a great shot of them. I'm just very critical and very difficult with these.
I love it. I love that about you, bro. Let's talk about Public Enemy. And this, if I remember correctly, this is from this is a photo session for the first album, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah, and this, if I remember correctly, was in a car garage in Long Island?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
earlier in the night, we shot the back cover in a McDonald's parking lot where people would hang out, and meet up, right? The 98 posse came to meet us, so we were in the parking lot. But then the police or someone came by and just chased us out. So we found this empty garage out there in Hempstead and shot this picture with the 98 posse.
Right.
And then, they let us use their cars. The cars didn't belong to anyone in the group. And then, you had a photo that ended up, because they let us use their cars, right, Drew, we took a photo of all of them together in the photo with Public Enemy later. And so they could just have that. And I made 8x10s for every guy in the photo. And Chuck had one to keep in the studio, where they were recording. And when they were making Rebel Without a Pause, they had this photo on the board while they were there in the studio. And they said, fuck it, we need to put this shot on the cover. And that was never meant to be published, the photo that is on the cover of Rebel Without a Pause with the 98 posse in the shot with some guns pulled out and everything, That was pretty crazy.
Hempstead, Long Island represent, right?
Yeah, it was a pretty crazy evening. It was a pretty crazy photo. Whenever people pull out real guns, it's kind of hectic.
Yeah, yeah.
And
in those days, because I did the Onyx Slam video. In those days, there was every time I did a video shoot or something, people were pulling out guns, and it was like I remember shutting down the Onyx shoot and saying, "You're gonna pull out guns. No one's going to play the video. We're wasting our time here, Yeah.
Well, back when I did this is about 3 years before the Onyx thing and before it got really popular. This was just like an accident, an honest accident, and it wasn't meant to be published, that photo, Years later when I had realized the error of my ways in some ways. You know, we were portraying the culture, but I wasn't trying to glorify anything, but it ended up doing that eventually. And when I realized that people weren't taking the message properly, I stopped photographing people with guns altogether. You know, I did it for South Central Cartel. I did that, and that was the last time I ever did it.
Yeah, I hear that. Love this shot. Is there any background story to the minor threat shirts these guys are wearing? Were you responsible for that?
Of course I was. Yeah, who else would be? You know, Chuck and Flavor, you know, they trusted me. I'm their boy. I knew them before the group was officially Public Enemy. I knew them when the Public Enemy was the demo and the group was called Chucky D, you know? And these guys were out in California, one of their first trips out to California, doing a show called The Cutting Edge for MTV. It was IRS Records. It was kind of an alternative music show. And I had gotten Suicidal Tendencies on there a couple years before, and we got Public Enemy on there. And I said, this is like an alternative rock show. You obviously, they're hip hop. They'd never had a hip hop group on this show before. I said, if you want to have a good tie-in with this audience, wear these shirts. And I told them about straight edge, which Chuck always was. Chuck was never a drinker or a drug person at all. And they put on the shirts for me to get the shot. And I think they might have even done the interview in those shirts. If you could find that show, The Cutting Edge, with Public Enemy on, a rare episode. I mean, that's their backdrop. I would never fucking shoot someone with some crazy background like that in a studio. I only got like, you know, one shot of them like that.
Yeah, and there's like I see the TV off to the right. It's an interesting shot. Jamie from SSD Control says that he was with Glenn when he shot King T and guns were out. Sketchy as hell.
Wait, I wonder which King T session he was with me. I didn't know that. I forgot that Jamie was there. See, I have people like Joe Bruno and Amory Smith, AWOL Smith. And now Jamie chimes in. I forgot that are my assistants. You know, no one ever touches my fucking camera equipment, but they just watch my bag when I'm in sketchy places. You know, Jamie, which King T session were you there for? Because I did 3 King T album covers. I'm guessing that it was probably the second one was the most insane one, and by that time is when Jamie was living in LA, and we were on the side of Ice-T's apartment when we literally had like fucking 20 guns. Jamie didn't answer us back yet.
He will. He'll get. Oh, you hung out my car on the 101 freeway.
Really, it was that day. I thought that was Amory Smith's car on the 101 freeway.
He must have been there as well, bro.
I was 90% sure that was Amory Smith's car that day, and that would be the second album. And Jamie was there when we went to the jail. When we went to the LA County Jail. I don't know, man. I don't know whose memory is fucking up, but one of ours is. It's probably mine. What about LL? That was the LL. No one had even seen LL at this point. His first album wasn't out yet. He only had a single out, and it had no picture sleeve, so no one knew what he looked like when I took this picture. And I
love Cool James, right?
And I met him this day. I was in town to shoot that Run DMC tour book. And LL was just in the Rush offices over there at 1133 Broadway by Madison Square Park. And, you know, and I had heard I'm Dangerous just came out. And that shit was so incredible. It was so great. I mean, here's a guy who, you know, what they say could, you know, gargle peanut butter. And he was incredible. He was like 16 years old. And we just walked out to the park with his box and took photos, and down by the train station too. You know, all the outtakes from this stuff are all in the My Rules book, including this. This was a publicity shot. This was a great shot. This is one of my favorite shots.
And this is in Madison Square Park?
Yep. Before it was renovated. You know, back this is November 1985.
We loved him in New York, man. He's a Queens guy, and when he first came out, we fucking loved him, man. He was great. Let's talk about these posters and what's going on with. Explain. You sent me. We got like 6 posters, including this one. We haven't talked about these guys, but what's happening with these posters? Is it a set and are they for sale?
It is. This is another Drew exclusive. This is first being announced here.
Thank you.
We're gonna do some shows. The last time I had a show was in London in 2014. And this is LL actually in the subway in those shots that I was just telling you about. And that was in London with the ATP crew, All Tomorrow's Parties. Those people put on great concerts. And we haven't had a show in 5 years. It's very hard for me to have exhibitions because I don't usually deal with normal, sponsors. I don't fuck with that stuff. And I don't fuck with normal art galleries because they want to take 50% of what we sell. And the other point is that I'm not really big on, it's not my goal is not to sell prints. My goal is to inspire people. If people could afford it, they could buy prints. My prints start at like $2,500 and go up, right? They're not cheap. And they're, all, exclusive and museum quality and all that. And, people inquire, it's not even easy to get my prints. You got to work to find out how to do it and to get them. But it happens, and people do own my prints around the world, not that many. But that said, we're doing an exhibition. We're going to try and do exhibitions all around the world in 2022 and 2023 with the ATP people. If anyone was at the show in London, it was incredible. We took over a whole building from top to bottom. We had, videos. We had, recordings of people reading their essays from the My Rules book. It was great. So what we're going to do is kind of crowdfund these shows for 2022 and 2023. And we're putting out a set of 6 posters. And they're going to be like 80 euros or $99. And they're going to be like 16 by 20s. And anyone who buys one of these posters that's on really thick, heavy photo paper is going to be helping to finance the shows in cities around the world. And that's what we're doing. And if they're one of the people that buys one of these prints, these, photo prints, they will be invited to, the opening, a pre-opening before anyone else. So if you have one of these prints, and you want to go see the show in Paris or Amsterdam or New York or wherever it might be near you, you can get one of these prints and you could be there for the pre-show and, and help us, and also have your name like in the program and stuff that helps us, do these ourselves without having to have crazy sponsors and bullshit all over the place. I mean, we might have someone help in the end a little bit, but mainly this is to really get it off the ground. We're going to sell these posters. There's no website for that yet. We're probably going to announce that officially in about a month. So the Dogtown short is coming out in a month. These prints are going to come out probably in the end of August or September, and people who buy these prints are going to help finance the show to go around the world. And it's finally a way for people to get big images of mine for accessible price. They're not signed, but they are what they are.
Here you go. Here's a personal favorite right here. Woo!
Yeah, that's going to be one of the 6 posters that's going to be available, one of the prints. They're along the lines of the Shepherd Ferry prints, very similar size. And that's Black Flag at the Suicidal Party. That's one of my favorite Black Flag photos after the Cuckoo's Nest one, taken with the fisheye and my double setup of flashes that I used to use in skating and Cherry Hill shots at night.
That's awesome. I think might have one more. No, that's it. That's all of them. Fantastic. Hey, let me do my last sponsor shout out. We'll come back. We'll take some questions from around the world. Okay.
But for those posters, I want people to just keep an eye on my Instagram to find out when that shit's going to happen, when you can get those posters, because they're going to be limited edition as well.
I think I got them all. Oh, before we go, in your opinion, greatest hip hop album of all time?
Absolutely. That's the first printing of it. I wish you showed the second printing, but because the fucking art director fucked it up and put that yellow.
Yeah, I know. I noticed that. I was trying to. I'm like, why do these look?
That's the first pressing. They made like 100,000 or something like that, and it was a mistake. It shouldn't have been yellow. It's supposed to be red, black, and green. You know what I mean? Yeah. And they fucked it up. But yeah, that's the greatest hip hop album of all time, hands down. Everyone knows that. All the critics, everyone else, I believe that, and I'm proud to have been a part of it. That wasn't the photo I wanted on the cover. In fact, I threatened to scratch the negative because the other pictures are much better. But at the time, the format was cassettes. And to see, they wanted it to be really clear, that they were in jail. They didn't want to just have 3 bars. They wanted the 5 bars, and the other shots were closer up. Much better photographs, but, this is the one, and I'm proud to be a part of it either way.
Rich Zoller asks, is this cover shot taken at Newark Jail?
No, this shot was taken on 30th Street. Midtown Manhattan Traffic Bureau. that was used for a lot of movies back then and TV shows. And in fact, I found that jail because they filmed the scene from Tougher Than Leather when DMC is in the jail. It's actually there. They go outside to Rahway to shoot the exterior shots, but the interior shots were done here. And that's how I found that jail to shoot that photo.
Got it. Okay. Fantastic. All right. Let me do a final shout out and we'll be back in a minute. Okay.
Okay, cool.
Well, there you go. This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. Always macking, never lacking, and constantly sucker slapping. Our guest today is Glen Friedman, photographer, author, producer. It's a great show. Did a lot of homework for this show, you know. And you know what made it possible? Your support. Yeah, this is an insane show. I was a little nervous about this one, I must admit. I really was. If you're still thinking about participating and supporting this friggin' show, well, there you go. Don't be scared. Jump right in. We're killing it over here. I know. Yo, I did some mad homework, yo. Who did homework? Whew. Took a long time to get this dude on the show, too. Believe me. I had to, like, really fucking bust his balls, man. You know? But it's great. It's really, really great. Let's shout out a couple of our sponsors here, and let's take some questions from around the world. There is a super chat. If you want to contribute a little bit to the show, you could do a super chat for a couple bucks. Don't be a cheap fuck. Contribute to the show, which is sponsored by Chain Reaction Records. And Skateboards, located in Lakewood, Colorado, is the Rocky Mountain headquarters for all things punk, hardcore, and metal. Established in 2014, they have the largest selection of records, CDs, shirts, stickers, patches, and accessories between Chicago and Los Angeles. From the pit to the ditch, they got your back. From the pit to the ditch. Does that make sense to you? From the pit to the ditch, they've got your back. Get in touch with them at www.chainreactionrecords.com. Also, got to ask our guest about this. Organic Grill. It's a vegan restaurant located at the East Village of New York City at 101 Avenue, featured in New York Magazine, New York Times, and Veg News. The dishes have won numerous awards, including Best Veggie Burger. They make their own cheeses, sausages, and burger patties, and every dish on the menu can be made gluten-free. This year, they're celebrating the 21st anniversary, and they're all about having a great time while enjoying amazing, clean food. They've now fully reopened for business and look forward to seeing you. Get in touch with them and order some great food at www.theorganicgrill.com. I mentioned this before. I'm going to mention it again. This Sunday in the birthplace of New York hardcore, our beloved A7. It is the New York Hardcore Chronicles, Back to the New York Hardcore Roots music series. It continues with Ape, All Proven Equal, Reaching Out, Posse in Effect, Beastie Boys tribute, Bowhead, Butterbrain, and celebrating the release of their new album, Blessed, Examine. So don't be shy. Come on down. Come say hello to me. You know, in person. I don't exist in person at this point. I just live in the internet. I'm not a real person. What was that? What was that? Max Headroom? Remember that? I'm like Max Headroom now. Wait a second. Is that what's Magnus? What is that? What is SEK 200? Is that Swedish money? What is that? Do you have a question, Magnus? Come on. I know, that's what I'm saying. What is 200? Somebody do a conversion for me, will you? What are we talking about here in Swedish money? What's up, Hags? Hey, you know what I got to mention? We're doing the walking tour on Saturday. Special guest Evan Stone. Everybody's welcome. Drop me a line if you're in New York City. We leave at 10 a.m. in Times Square. It is the Drew Stone Cinematic and Music Walking Tour. Swedish crowns. All right. I can't wait. I got some Swedish crowns, yo. All right. Is that right? It's $23.03. Thank you. Do you have a question for our guest? Yeah, Evan. Hey, Kenny Clark. Whoa. What are you doing here, bro? I love when people like from the past are like, dicking around scrolling through Facebook and they see my show live, like Kenny Clark. They're like, hey, what's up? Yeah, man. Yeah. It's all good. Let's get some questions for our guest, Glen E. Friedman. Chucky, what do you got? Let me see if I got any photos. Yeah, I got to tell him about this. Yeah. Clear the deck. All right, Glen, you ready to come back on? You all right? You good to go?
I'm good, man. Doesn't look like we have any questions, though. I burnt everyone out.
Here's an interesting question. I'm not familiar with this person. Glen has mentioned on more occasions for his admiration for Ian Svenonius. Am I pronouncing that properly?
Yeah, that's pretty close. Yeah.
The bands he is in are all absolutely great. But what makes this person such a unique one, so to speak?
How articulate he is, what a great performer he is, and what an incredible writer he is. He is incredible. He's one of my favorite people. He's probably the greatest conversationalist I know. You could talk about anything, and if he's your friend, you'll keep the conversation going forever. And he's just really, really fucking smart. I think he's one of those geniuses that we happen to know. For real, he's a genius, and he's fucking awesome.
Woo! Did he shoot any skateboarding in the 90s? Do you ever go out and shoot skateboarding again? Are you ever inspired to like get back in there and do any skateboarding stuff?
Yeah, when I'm inspired, I'll do it. I mean, I haven't shot much skateboarding since the 80s, but occasionally, every once in a while, I will. I mean, I seen that kid, what's his name? Grayson Fletcher. I shot him like 2 years ago. He's like one of the Fletcher clan, and he was incredible. I mean, and I shot great photos of him. If you look back at my Instagram thing, you could see. I think the video someone shot of me shooting him is better than the shot that I got. But yeah, I mean, when I'm inspired, I'll shoot it. Yeah, that's all I can say about that. I mean,
hey, love these shows with big loads of history. Just grab the copy of My Rules off Amazon UK in the break. See, it's cause and effect, my man.
It's all right. It's
all right.
Yeah, I want to see. I mean, the fact that you got that exclusive on that Black Flag book, people don't run out and fucking pre-order that. That's big. That's the biggest thing to me. I mean, that's a big fucking book. But yeah, My Rules is a no-brainer. If you don't have that and you're watching the show, you're obviously making a mistake.
This is an interesting.
Let me hold up this book if you're not saying it. This you get at Akashic Books too. This one is the art book. It came out some years ago. But Akashic now has this one back in stock. And if you're a photographer and it's not just punk rock or hip hop you're into and you want my stuff, this is the book to get. This is more about my aesthetic. But it is also very punk rock. In fact, Ian MacKaye wrote a couple of words for it. Ralph Nader, Cornel West, Ian Svenonius all wrote words for this. And it's an incredible book. That one, yeah, you can get it at Akashic.
Al Baril, our friend from SSD Control, asks, any comments about your time spent working with Scream or other bands? I didn't know you worked with Scream.
Al's a motherfucker. That's what Al is.
Oh, he's starting trouble? Is that what it is?
Yeah. I mean, yes, there was a point in the late 80s where I was going to start a record label. And there was a band called Manifesto that was Mike Hampton and Ivor, from SOA were in the band. And there was more poppy stuff. And also Scream, I wanted to get signed to a major label. They were a great band, and they were just too big for Discord. They were getting big, and they had what became the Fumble record. I was shopping around, and Dave Grohl was in the band. And Dave was incredible, obviously. He was a great punk rock drummer. He wasn't the original drummer in Scream. He didn't play on all their greatest songs, but he was a big part of that Fumble record. And, and I was trying to get them, but then he ended up joining Nirvana, And then there were some issues there because I had them signed and whatever else. But, it's all good. I mean, the guy's obviously He was always a super nice guy. You knew he was going to be a rock star because that's just what he wanted to be. And that's what he is, right? He's just a rock star.
I remember him as being a very nice guy. Yeah,
yeah.
He was
for the most part. Yeah, back then he definitely was. I've seen his behavior later, and he said some things about me that weren't so nice, which are completely off the mark and stupid. But people have their own perspective on things. But it is what it is.
RS70 OGHC, who contributed that great logo. Did he ever slam dance, stage dive, or write graffiti?
Oh. Do you want me to tell the story?
Yeah, please.
Well, New York Hardcore Chronicles. I am the person who brought slam dancing to New York City. Me personally.
Here we go.
You could ask Harley Flanagan, who might not remember completely, but he was there that night, as was Robbie Crip Crasher, because Rob and I went to high school together, and it was at the Botany Talk Lounge during Christmas, because I was back here visiting my dad, at a Bad Brain show with Even Worse, the same show where Yauk met Diamond, I believe. And it wasn't that night. It was the same set of shows, because I don't remember them being there. They might have been there, but I didn't know them then. But it was probably in 1981, and I was living back in Los Angeles. I went back to LA. I finished high school here in the spring of 1980. I was done with high school, and I went out to California for college, back to be with my mom. And I saw, what people were, the HB strut, or different names that they were calling that dance. It became known as slam dancing. And it made sense for the faster music to fucking swing your arms around and run around the whole floor bashing into each other. Not in a fucking circle like a bunch of fucking kooks. Like it became years later. There's a very good example of it. There's examples of it, in old videos from then. And I have to say that's one of the cool things about the decline of Western civilization. There are good live clips in that movie. It's just the interviews are mostly fucked up, the way they portray rockers. But but you can see the slam dancing in that, where everyone is really mushed together, bumping off of each other and hitting each other, but not following each other like a bunch of fucking idiots in a circle, And so that made sense to fast music, rather than before that we were just pogoing, just jumping up and down. And you could only jump up and down so fast. You can't be on beat if you're jumping up and down to the Bad Brains. But that's what we did at the first Bad Brain shows, because that's how people danced back then. Yeah. But then I came back to New York.
Pogoing.
That's what I'm saying. Pogoing. Yeah. You could jump up and down, pogoing. And just jumping up and down, all packed in together, because you were a group, and usually in a small club, and you're next to your people that everyone is packed together. There's no space in between you. And that was a convenient way to move around. But when the Bad Brains played that Christmas, and I had been in LA and no one else had been out there and seen punk rock shows, I said, this is the new way it's going down. This is when the music is fast. This is what has to happen. You're fucking just going all, and I was knocking over people like they were fucking bowling pins. And I was always just a skinny guy, but I was just fucking moving around that small dance floor. It must have been 15 or 20 feet by 20 feet. It was in the back of a bar, and the Bad Brains are playing, and they are fucking going off and not playing reggae yet. You understand what I'm saying? This was the Bad Brains that I grew up on,
81 into 82.
This was early 81. This was 80, 81. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's what that was. It was 80. In fact, it might have even been 1980. It might have been 80. No, it was 81. That's right. It was Christmas 81. So anyways, I brought it into the city then. I went back to New York, after Christmas visiting my dad. I went back to LA, and I come back the next summer, and all these fucking knuckleheads are dancing in a circle. And the scene is 3 times larger than it was back then. Back then in the early days of New York, young people's punk rock, when it started with the Stimulators and the Mad and the Bad Brains, there wasn't hardcore yet. The Bad Brains were a punk rock band, and they were a hardcore punk rock band. And Black Flag was a hardcore punk rock band. But this name, hardcore, didn't come about yet. Like I said, it was Tim Summer who popularized that in the press, and then it kind of stuck, right? And that's what people did. And that was the label given to that generic, oompa oompa, music that was coming out of New York at the time, and where people were dancing in a circle, following each other. you know. That's when I got turned off from the scene. You know, before this all happened, we would go to shows and there'd be 20 people there, you know, and people could tell their stories. They were here then, they were there. You can say whatever the fuck you want. The people who were there really know, right? I was at shows. I seen the Bad Brains play when there were 15 people in the room, you know. I seen the Mad play when there were 15 or 10, 20 people in the room. I seen the Stimulators play when there was 9 of us there, you know, and half of them were from the band playing after them, you know.
The Stimulators were a real missing link. They're not a missing link, but they were a real
No,
link
they
to-
were the link in between the old and the new.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and you know, people want to talk shit and say things about my man Harley Flanagan. You could say all the fuck you want, right? But Harley, you know, he was in a band when he was fucking 11 and 12 years old, you know, in New York City, playing Max's Kansas City. I saw him there. I saw him at One Under. I saw him. I was at this show. I took pictures of the Mad and the Stimulators at this show at One Under. In fact, there's pictures of the One Under show in the My Rules book and even in Fuck You Heroes. It might have been at Trax, actually. It was at Trax, which is another place uptown. But yeah, to front on Harley's legacy, you know, you could argue with other things about Harley and his other bands and whatever happened then. But to fuck with his legacy, you're an idiot. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Because he was there, I was there. I met Harley in 1979 at the Buzzcock show at the Palladium. And he was so little, he was pogoing in front of me, you know, hit me in the nuts practically because he was so short and little. And I was just, you know, he just happened to be in front of me and then gave me a flyer to his show. You know, he was a kid. He was a little kid. And I was like, you know, I was in high school at that show, you know, when the Buzzcocks played at the Palladium or at the Hotel Diplomat, you know, uptown.
Okay.
You know, it's a different time, man. But people, you know, a lot of people talk a lot of shit and they think that they know what they, you know, these things. I'm sure that you know something, but don't front like you know what you don't know. I hate that.
Welcome to the internet, right? I mean,
fuck the internet. People have been doing it way before the internet.
Yep.
We used to call them posers.
Chucky Brown says, can he speak when he once ran away from home to take pictures because he got grounded due to bad grades and couldn't use his camera? I believe it was for the July 78 issue of Skateboarder magazine.
Who the fuck said that?
Did that not happen?
That is a true story. That is a true story.
Well, there you go.
And that's about as deep as it got today. Yeah, I think it was the very first professional pool riding contest. I guess it was in 77. It might have been 78, but I think it was 77. I'm pretty sure it was 77, but that one might have been 78 by that point. I don't know. And yeah, my stepfather told me I couldn't go away and couldn't take pictures that weekend in Upland, which was the second of the series. It was called the Hester series. And, you know, we had, you know, I had my own room and my stepfather and I weren't very close and he was always working all the time. So my mom was away on business in Europe and working. And I just put a bunch of skateboards in my bed to pretend they were me sleeping. And it wasn't discovered until Sunday. And yeah, I got in a lot of trouble because I wasn't supposed to be doing that. But I went away and took those pictures that weekend. And the truth is that after I came back, my stepfather called my mom and said, Glenn ran away. We don't know where he is. And she came back early from Europe. I was in a lot of trouble. And my stepfather didn't talk to me for the rest of the time they were married.
Oh.
But we became friends later on, you know, as an adult. I became friendly with him again. But he was a very strict, tough character. Yeah, he was a criminal lawyer.
Wow. Astoria Lou, our friend, just sent me this great picture. You know what? It wasn't on the radar screen, but we didn't talk about this. But how about this one?
Oh, yeah, that was a Kraut taken right outside of A7. That's on Avenue A.
Yeah, right there, man.
No, that's on 7th Street. That's on 7th
Street. Right on 7th Street, right down, a couple doors down from the entrance.
That's a good rare one, man. It makes sense to see those. I mean, Kraut was like, I think at that time, I mean, there were some bands that were pretty good, you know, and I was like, you know, I mean, I shot Kraut, I shot Reagan Youth, you know, they all still had a little bit of melody, you know. I didn't like many of their songs, but I always liked one or two songs, you know, like Reagan Youth had New Aryans, and when Reagan Youth played, you know, War Pigs, you know, it was fucking awesome, you know. and it was so punk rock the way they did it too. It was just such a great song. And Kraut was, they were pretty good back then. And I guess they were just at A7. I just thought they were good enough that I would take a group photo of them. I really only shot bands that I liked, so if you don't see photos of and sometimes I shot pictures of bands that I didn't like, or I didn't think were that good, or maybe they were good that night. So I took a photo of them, because there are some whack bands that I took photos of, like Bad Religion and stuff, it's like, not that Greg doesn't have a great voice, but just, a lot of those bands, the music was just corny to me.
Gotcha. I saw this documentary recently, and I didn't make the connection until I started doing my homework for the show. Here you are as not even a teenager, what, maybe 10, 11 here?
About 11 or 12, yeah.
Yeah, whoa. Woo.
The birds we have here in New York making that noise.
Yeah, man. Tell us, hold on.
That's okay.
I muted you for a second.
Don't do that. Let people hear beautiful New York. That's life, man.
How come I don't have that up here where I live, man?
I don't know where the fuck you live, but
Upper West Side, man, represent.
I'm down here in the Village by Union Square.
Tell us about this photo. This is actually, this is oh, there you go. Come on now.
That hat was worn from 1970 to 75, and they won the National League East Division 4 out of 5 years and the World Series that they wore this hat.
Now, here you are with infamous Pittsburgh Pirate pitcher Doc Ellis, who pitched a no-hitter high on LSD, correct?
Apparently.
And, apparently. And later on, you were involved with the documentary. How did this come to be? I love this thing, man. It was great. This was great.
Well, Doc was inspirational to me as a kid. Before skateboarding, before punk rock, I was a baseball kid, and I loved the Pittsburgh Pirates. I'd never been to Pittsburgh, but Roberto Clemente was my idol. A good person, a good role model, obviously, to this day for many people. There's public schools, there's playgrounds, there's parks named after Roberto. But he was a big influence on my life as a kid and even into adulthood. After he passed away, I was at a Pirate game, out here there at Shea Stadium, trying to get autographs or baseballs or whatever, and I became friends with Doc Ellis at the game. And every time when they would come to town, he would hang out and talk to me and invite me. He took me into the dugout. He took me down to the clubhouse before the game. That's before a game. Al Oliver, all-star center fielder, took that photo with my dad's camera at the time. It's out of focus and stuff, but we got, I became friendly with Doc, and people had heard the story who were making the documentary, or maybe I even approached them. I forget which way it went. And I said, I got to be a part of this because that's my man, and I helped produce the documentary called No No.
Wasn't one of the Beastie Boys involved with that film?
Had nothing to do with me, and Adam Horovitz did the soundtrack. It was completely coincidental that they found Adam Horovitz to do the soundtrack. And it was like, I think Adam had just passed, and I think, Horovitz didn't have much to do. And I think somehow they got linked together and had nothing to do with me. It was just a great coincidence that Horovitz was working on it too. And he did it without any knowledge to me. And I'm standing on a stool in front of the locker out at Shea Stadium. 1974, probably.
I really thought that was the connection. Like you must have gotten, either you brought him in or he brought you in.
No, it was just a coincidence. It was really bizarre. I just couldn't even believe it when that happened. Yeah, that's cool. Because they couldn't get all the music that they originally had in, which very happens often with documentaries. You can't get all the music because it's too expensive. And that documentary, like most of them that people put their heart into, took a couple of years.
Yeah, tell me about it. I'm dealing with that shit right now with my new film. Chucky Brown, once again. Drew, please ask why two different song titles for the Suicidal Tendencies track I Shot Reagan, I Shot the Devil. Did they really get approached by the FBI to change the name of the song?
Well, it was never obviously the song is I Shot Reagan, but I think Lisa Fancher just nipped it in the bud and said, let's do this. And it was obvious. And, I Shot the Devil, and you're talking about Reagan anyways. It makes it even better. I mean, Reagan was a big Reagan is the precursor to all the bullshit we had to experience in the last, couple of years. These Republicans just completely dumbing down the whole population, and you get a total fucking piece of shit con man like Donald Trump in office. Is the beginning of that happens when Ronald Reagan comes to office. And so it's great that they had a song called "I Shot the Devil."
Can we talk a little bit about Liberty Street protest?
You're digging pretty deep, and I don't think people will be that concerned or that interested in it. But back in 2001, after the towers fell down. Oh, this is not from Liberty Street protest. This is Black Lives Matter.
Okay,
that's a pretty cool shot, though.
I sort of tied them both together. I see protest.
Yeah.
I just this is my visual reference.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It looks pretty crazy. I'm wearing that 1987 original "Stop the Violence" T-shirt that I love. I broke it out just for that. The Liberty Street protest was when I put these huge signs with the help of Shepard Fairey and Chris Habib and the guy who made the signs, actually. But it was my idea to do this, to put these letters in the windows across from the World Trade Center during the Republican convention. And it said, and this is while George Bush is revving up to go to war against Iran and Iraq, and obviously that was, some bullshit. And I wanted to protest that. And I knew during the Republican convention, all these fucking losers would be in town, rah, rah, America, let's go to ground zero where, the towers fell and, cheer, go USA. And, I had these fucking big signs in the windows in the building right across the street from the big hole in the ground. Yeah, I think it was one of the most fucking badass things I'd ever participated in, I ever did. If you walked by there and you saw this, after I laid it out, I went downstairs and looked up at it. I was almost scared. I thought I was going to get arrested. It was really fucking hardcore. But it was in, my old friend Russell Simmons' private property. And, it was, sorry, I thought I turned all this stuff off. I think I left something on here.
It's all right. It's all right.
But yeah, if anyone could look up the Liberty Street protest, I think there's a link to it on the burningflags.com website. That shit was amazing. And it was badass. Millions of people around the world saw it during the Republican convention. In America, it was just fucking cut off all, there wasn't an MSNBC yet. It probably would have recorded every minute out there. It's kind of banned from being seen in America on TV too much. There were a couple local articles on it, but millions of people saw that around the world, and I was pretty proud of it. My anti-war protest that reached a lot of people right there across from, where the buildings fell down.
Yeah, I was down that way when it happened. It was I'll carry it with me for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
What inspires you these days? Just as we head towards the door here, just a couple more things, but like these days, we're about the same age. I think I'm a couple months. We're pretty much born the same. What inspires you these days?
I hear bands every once in a while. There's, something that I hear that I like, but it's pretty rare. You got to imagine if you grew up, sitting on stage, next to Greg Ginn's amp during a Black Flag show in 1980, or being in a club with 10 people when the Bad Brains were playing, it's, sorry, I keep getting distracted. These knuckleheads are right into me. It's hard, and just growing up with the stuff that I did and seeing Minor Threat, play at the 930 Club, or Fugazi play at DuPont Circle, or here at the Palladium, just up the block where the Palladium used to be. It's like I've seen a lot of really good shit. And I'm 59 years old. I'm not really into going out to shows, although I will go to see a good show. It's pretty rare, and it's usually when it's a friend's band. So music isn't as inspiring to me, but I do hear good stuff, hear hip hop. And, you got to realize, to me, hip hop was like black kids' version of punk rock. It was just as rebellious, and it was just a new thing because punk rock was getting so generic and boring. After 84, most, of that hardcore stuff, I just did not care for. It was just generic and boring to me, and I got more into hip hop. And then you see what happened, how creative the Beasties got and Public Enemy got. It was just really incredible. So what inspires me is people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the girls from Pussy Riot, I don't love their music, but I love how rebellious she is. And, I shot a portrait of her a couple of years ago, Nadia. I mean, how many people fucking, Black Flag went to jail for disobeying a record contract they were involved in. And I think that's the first time I had ever heard of that.
Unicorn Records?
That's correct. And I talk about that in the new Black Flag book, but that'll be out in April.
And, and there you go. There's the information. Buy it. Go ahead.
But Pussy Riot, I mean, it's like those women went to the fucking gulag for their protest, for playing music. And obviously it was just shitty ass punk rock they were playing when they got arrested, and did it. But they went to the fucking gulag for 2 years.
Yeah, that was hard.
That is fucking badass. That to me is fucking inspiring.
Yep.
That to me, someone putting it all out online. And AOC, 31 years old now, she's smart as a fucking whip, and she is a badass. And if anyone out there knows her, could help me I've been trying to shoot a portrait of her for 2 years, and I cannot get the connection. I cannot get, and I want to shoot a portrait of her, while she's still in her prime, because I don't like shooting pictures of people after their prime. I really don't, that's why I don't shoot that many pictures of bands anymore. I mean, the young bands, they need to, you could find a better picture than that too, or maybe someone could send
someone just sent it to.
Yeah, that's a close-up. Someone should send you the whole building so you could really get it. I mean, those signs were right across the World Trade Center, and they were fucking 8 feet tall, each of them, and it was dope. I mean, it was hardcore that I did that shit. But, it's politicians, and there's young people, there's young skaters that inspire me. There's young musicians that inspire me. There's other photographers, that woman, Daggers for Eyes, she's a woman photographer who's shooting punk rock shows, like badass, man, really good fucking photos. And there's other people out there that are doing stuff. I'm definitely inspired by, people doing great things, but I'm also inspired by the old music. I love listening to my fucking 1,000 songs I have in my iTunes. I listen to, early Black Flag, the Weirdos, Minor Threat, Fela Kuti, Miles Davis, fucking, the Sonics, Bad Brains, everything, it's all this shit, man. It still inspires me, Beastie Boys still inspire me, you can still be inspired by old stuff. And again, all my pictures was made because I was inspired by the people who were, in front of the lens.
Absolutely. Hey, man, I want to thank you for coming on the show. It was great. And I know I hawked you for a while, and I really appreciate you making the effort and coming on. It was a fantastic show.
Well, thanks. I hope everyone enjoyed it. I hope it didn't get too boring for people out there and the old people telling their old stories. But, the truth is, we just want to keep on inspiring people, to do better things in the world, to be better people. I think that's what's important. I've been vegan for over 30 years. I never, was, into alcohol or drugs at all. Since a kid, I was, peer pressured into that stuff. But I think, you keep your mind, in tune with everything that's going on. Don't get swallowed up by conspiracy theories and bullshit out there. Science is true whether you believe it or not. And so is, truth is truth, right? And I live by that. And keeping our integrity, not selling out, is really, really, it's important. And hopefully, we'll keep humans alive on this planet a little bit longer. I mean, that's why I am vegan, because I know how it affects the environment. It wasn't for my own health when I was 27 years old and I started being vegan. It was for the planet, It wasn't even for the animals. I make a joke sometimes. I hate animals so much I don't even eat them. That
were you always a straight edge guy?
Yeah, always. I mean, like I said, the only time I had ever done any drugs or drank anything was when I was peer pressured, and all that ended
as a young teenager.
By all that ended by the time I was 15, and even then, I didn't do much. I never bought alcohol. I never bought any drugs. Right. I just didn't make any sense to me. It just never did. Again, I didn't want to dull my mind, and I understand that some people have to just to get through the daily grind. I get it, but I think there's other ways. There's reading books or watching movies and running and other things people do nowadays. As all of our sober friends know, eventually, life seems to be a lot better for them now that they stop doing that. I mean, and many of my friends, think that things will never damage them. People will admit, some of our good friends that we've even seen in my books that smoke pot for fucking half their lives, don't have any memory of a good portion of their life, and that's sad. But it is what it is. We all move forward. All I ask, Drew, is that don't give up on the planet. Don't give up on people. Not everyone has to go to every protest, or don't go to any fucking protest. Don't sign a petition. Do whatever the fuck. Just do something. Just do something. Do something to make the world a better place. Be polite to people. A lot of hardcore people think, oh, fuck PC culture. All PC culture is, it does go a little far sometimes, and it is hard for me to even understand sometimes how far, and people want to be known as certain things. But all it is being conscious of other people's feelings, right? It's just being fucking polite. And if this world was more polite, we'd have a much better fucking planet. I'll tell you that. You wouldn't have fucking shitheads who were in the fucking government for the last 4 years. I'm not saying that what's here now is fantastic. It's not, but it's a fucking 1,000 times better than what we had. And you just got to move fucking forward. Don't give up on shit just because it's not what you want. Baby steps. You got to fucking do what you can and get, just do the best that you can, people. Just do something. Do something.
There you go. I want to leave on that note there with there's the full building, right?
That's a more full shot of the building. Yeah, as a matter of fact, after I did the top floor, guys on the lower floor asked me if I say, hey, we'll donate our floors too. Because this was across from the hole. There's another picture where you could actually see the hole in the foreground more, and the tribute that they had. And like I said, it was fucking raining on people. It was aggressive,
Yeah, man. All right. Well, let's keep in touch. And I thank you so much for coming on the show. It was great, man.
Thanks, Drew.
I'll talk to you soon.
Take care, man. Be good. Take care, everybody. Be good people.
Well, there you go. Glen Friedman. And great show. I did a lot of homework for the show. I was a little nervous, and it was great. And Glen Friedman, he speaks his mind. It was just great to have him on, man. Yeah, everybody out there, thanks for tuning in. It was a great show. Yes, it was a great show. I love doing this sometimes. Sometimes I just love doing this show. And this is one of those times. So I'm very fortunate that I have the opportunity through your support to do something that I really love. So everybody have a good night, a good day wherever you are in the world. We'll see you next week. Until then, do good things and good things will come to you.